voice feels weird.
I have formatted. Your voice looks weird too.
It feels like I'm having to really force to talk loud. I don't know why.
You talked a lot this weekend?
No. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've been in meetings and stuff today. But...
Yeah, that's reality.
Yeah, that's my life.
Tuesdays are meeting-y.
Yeah, today especially because I had that call that I just got off
you had a bonus meeting.
It's a lot.
Extra.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Shall we cast?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
You good? A couple of these looking kind of dim. I don't know. That's all right.
Need some more batteries.
Oh, hang on, before we get to it, let's flip the tube.
Yeah, we should put that somewhere where it can be seen.
You can't see it there?
No, it's completely it's right
blocks
behind
by my head. Go figure.
Yeah, well,
whatever. We'll know it's there.
We will.
Welcome everybody to episode number 107 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I'm Brian Goulet.
I'm Drew Brown.
And we're here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we're going to be talking about 14 karat and 18 karat nibs and what makes them different, why you can find bottles of pens from brands that we carry, but we don't carry those certain models. We're going to talk about fixing a scratchy nib at home. We haven't done any detailed nib talk in a while.
No, it's been a while.
Be like riding a bike. What's the ideal number of pens to get a diverse collection? This should be interesting. And why don't manufacturers just make the perfect pen already? And then we're going to be spotlighting the Pilot Custom 845 as well. And then we got our regular shenanigans. So should be fun. So we'll start it off with some feedback.
Well, Brian, we've got some feeding back coming from Jones Cat 4.
Mm-hmm.
The ink job candidates has to be put into the top 10 of all-time Pencast questions and answers.
Wow.
You hit the nail on the head with this one. I was amused, informed, and impressed. It was worth waiting for over an hour for the discussion. Jeez.
I had how long it took us to get to that question?
I guess so, yeah. I had to pause the Pencast to immediately check to see if I had J. Herbon 1798 Amethyst de L'Oreal in my possession. Upon finding out that I had a bottle in the back of my ink drawer, I was both elated and ashamed. Definitely an ink that should not be relegated to the back of the drawer with its great performance, versatility, and flair. The bottle now sits on my desk, front and center. Nobody puts baby in a corner or in the back of a drawer.
That's cool. See, I love it when you can rediscover something that you already have.
It's like new again.
That's what I love about the fountain pen hobby overall. And this happens with pens, it happens with ink. Mm-hmm. Not as much with paper. Paper, I feel like I pretty much take it for what it is. But ink and pens, at least, I definitely have things where I'm kind of like, or I'm not into it at the time. But then I later come back to it and I'm like, man, why have I been sleeping on this the whole time? Like, this was here for me. And I just didn't appreciate it.
You know what?
But then you get to rediscover it and you're like, cool.
I bet we need to revisit French ruled paper. That maybe that's the surprise that's waiting for us. Maybe we're just like, you know what? I didn't give it a shot before, but now I did. And I love it. It's my favorite thing.
It's just so many lines. There's just so many lines on that paper.
All right. And then we got a message from Grant, who we answered the question from the ink candidates, the Inkterview, as someone pointed out we should have said.
Inkterview?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
It's clever.
Grant here. Thanks for taking our question. The boys had a blast putting it together. I'll be using the Pencast for our family time meeting next Sunday. Fun fact, it was the three who have been with us the longest that came up with the content. They picked each ink based off of their own personality. The final ink, Fuyu Syogun, they picked to represent me, since the English translation is roughly old man winter. I saw a picture of Grant with his kids. Like, he's probably younger than us. Like, not an old man.
What does that say about us?
Not an old man. Come on. Those kids. Those rascals.
I mean, when you're a kid, I remember thinking 30 years old was elderly. You just had no concept.
We probably had a good many teachers that were our age.
I think about that.
Yeah.
I see the teachers that my kids have had, and I'm like, I mean, some of them are, older. But
Yeah.
some of them are like, oh, I'm good 10, maybe 15 years older than many of these teachers.
Yeah.
And they probably seem old to my kids.
That's great.
Which is weird.
That's great.
Yeah. So
feel wonderful about that.
How old must I feel to them?
Old Man Winter.
Very old. Yeah.
Speaking of Old Man Winter, Life Inspired Design says, I have never felt so seen. I feel like Drew summarized my entire professional career when talking about pilot Iroshizuku Fuyu Syogun.
Wow.
This may explain why I'm so drawn to this ink. I used a sample a while ago and loved it. I think a bottle purchase is in order, especially since I identify so strongly with its qualities.
Wow.
Dang. Well,
I mean, I'll be honest. We always try to put thought into these questions, and I thought it was good, but I didn't realize how much everybody would connect with it.
We got
That's
a lot
really
of feedback
cool.
about that. Yeah,
How about that?
It wasn't helpful. Like it didn't help anybody.
Apparently it was.
I mean, it was entertaining, I think, but
Wow.
yeah. Anyway, if you are like Life Inspired Design and would feel like you would benefit from a sample of Iroshizuku Fuyu Syogun, we're going to help you out. So if you wanted to order anything from the Goulet Pen Company between now and next week, Friday, October 6th, you can get a free sample of Iroshizuku Fuyu Syogun by adding it to your cart, and then during the checkout process, type in Fuyu, Fuyu, in all caps in the coupon code box. It'll go ahead and just deduct the $225 or however expensive that's more. That's more one of the more expensive ones.
It's up there. Yeah.
So look at that one. We're helping you out big time with that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, check out the Old Man Winter and and enjoy.
You can think about us. All right, I got one from Sextus Pompeius. Yes, you can remove the 823 cap insert. In my experience, it requires 5 Q-tips. 5 Q-tips.
So
Okay,
rather
you just
than
jam them all in there.
So rather than the rubber band around the pencil trick,
the rubber band around the pencil thing has rarely failed me.
I've never tried to just shove a bunch of Q-tips in there.
Neither have I.
Huh.
I might have to try shoving a bunch in there. Yeah, the thing about the reason I didn't really remember it, I don't think I've taken this out very much. It's because the insert on the 823 is black. Like it is not translucent. So if you do have any ink or anything in there, you don't see it quite as prominently as if you have a perfectly clear insert.
But you were right saying, I think you said you were pretty sure it could come out traditionally.
Yeah, it can.
You're right.
It can. Okay, cool. So I was pretty sure. I just wasn't as confident about my whatever. All right. Echo Southall says, as a librarian sitting here in the library listening to y'all, I have to agree, quantity is quality. Great joke. LOL. That got a few, actually, it's got several comments about that.
Yeah.
Laura RPH says, quantity is quality. Wow, that's my new fountain pen collection motto.
She's probably not alone.
Probably not.
There are probably a lot of quantity over quality fountain pen people out there.
It's not quantity over quality, it's quantity
That's
is
right.
quality. That's the whole point.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. That's really funny. I just came up with that on the fly during the Pencast.
You're not alone.
Now
You're in good company.
That explains so much of my life.
Yes, it really. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, this is the most Brian quote
It
ever.
really is. Fountain pens, puzzles,
hammers,
tools, hammers. You name it.
The amount of hammers.
So many hammers.
Did you say you had like over 20?
Oh, easily. Probably double that. I don't know. That's just what I can think of off the top of my head.
No, you do not have 40 hammers.
Easily.
Brian Goulet.
If you include sledgehammers and all that kind of stuff, yeah, for sure. I at least have like a dozen hammers just hanging up in one spot in my workshop. But they all have different purposes.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, definitely. You got different weights and sizes. You got framing hammers. You've got ball peen hammers. You got
40
rubber mallets. Easily.
40 different purposes.
Easily.
For whacking things.
I feel so inspired, maybe I'll count them up one day. But I would have to guess I have 40 hammers.
Oh my God.
And some of them, I went back, I was like a teenager when I bought them. Because it was I could go see this movie and forget about it. Or I could buy this hammer and have it the rest of my life.
You know how many
I still have all those hammers.
I have an inside hammer and an outside hammer.
An outside hammer?
What's an
outside hammer?
It's the one attached. I have a attached shed.
Okay.
And it's the one, and I get to it from the outside of my house.
Okay, yeah,
so it's in there.
Yeah.
But then I keep one. I have a little tool bag that I keep indoors, so I don't have to go outside.
Yeah.
It has all the essentials in it. So I have an inside hammer and an outside hammer.
Maybe one day I'll count up how many hammers I have and I'll give you a report.
Oh my god.
Just of the ones I can find. Yeah. I probably got hammers tucked away in places that I don't even know.
Do you have any in your shorts right now?
I don't have any on my person. Though they do make like have you ever seen like a Leatherman like multi-tool thing? They make
With
one
the
that
hammer?
has like a hammer
I have
in it.
seen those.
That's pretty cool.
Those are pretty
That's
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those, but
wow.
I do have this small, I don't see, this is another one I just remember that I have that I forgot about. Going back to my tinkering days, I think I got this when I was like a teenager, but it's a small metal hammer that's like this big, but you unscrew
I did have one of
the
those.
body out of
Yeah.
it, and it has like 4 different size
Those are so
screwdrivers. It's like a
fun.
Russian doll
Yeah.
of like screws inside of there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Those are fun.
So I have that somewhere. I don't know where that is. I haven't seen it or thought about it in years, but that's another hammer. Add it to the hammer tally. Anyway, quantity's quality. All right. Different Kind of Geek says, it's refreshing to see Brian not purchasing this pen, the Namiki Aya that we showed off last week. Yes, it's pricey, but not overly ridiculous. I love his frugality. It's also relatable to those on tight budgets. I don't know if I would be considered frugal in the pen space.
That's really what I wanted to... I put this on here because I did want to ask you, do you consider yourself to be a frugal person?
As a general rule, yes.
Because I would say yes.
Yeah,
I would say
absolutely.
you generally are frugal.
I've always spent less money than I have. I'm very debt averse. When it comes to buying things, I'm always keeping like value in mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that I'm refuse to buy something because it's expensive, but I always keep in mind like the bang for the buck, you know? So for me, that's kind of what frugal is. I'm not like not willing to spend money, but I have to see the value of like the return on that money. And it has to be I am more likely to spend something that's like a disproportionate value for
So
the
you
money
truly
spent.
do believe that 40 hammers is what you need?
Well, now you're maybe challenging me on that a little bit.
No. But for real, I would, if I was talking to somebody else about Brian, I'd be like, he is a very frugal person. I would say that. Like, you have your rabbit holes like we all do.
Sure.
But overall, like, you know, I've seen you drive some pretty modest vehicles.
I've owned
in your
several Pontiac Aztecs in my life.
And I would say that those are...
I drive a 10-year-old car right now.
I would say that generally speaking, of the important things, you know, you're a pretty frugal person. You and Rachel both, I would say.
Try to be.
Pretty frugal people.
Try to be, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's like, again, something like the Namiki Aya, for what it is, I think it's a great pen. I think it actually is a pretty good value for the work and everything that goes into it. But objectively, it's an expensive item to own, you know? So yeah, pens over a certain dollar amount, I really have to think a lot about it.
And I appreciate that. As somebody who benefits from the business owner's frugality, I appreciate your restraint. I do.
Exactly. It's not the only thing on my mind is like, oh, I want this pen. It's like, oh, there's a lot of expenses around here.
Right.
That I also have to be cognizant of.
I do appreciate that.
Sure,
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, of course. And then another one from Laura, RPH here. Brian, with your love of blues, how about Jeroban Kyanite du Nepal? I think it's fabulous. What an awesome shimmer. Yeah, I agree. That is a great one. Yeah. Probably I've probably been sleeping on that one a little bit. I keep one of every Urban ink that comes out now. Just like
where would that go above or below Stormy Gray?
Above or below Stormy Gray in terms of like
in your own personal ranking?
Above.
Above, yeah.
I mean, Stormy Gray is nice. It's a nice color, but grays in general, I'm not huge on grays.
Yeah.
Like
I go in and out.
Yeah.
Every now and then I get like right now I really want to ink up Diamine Silver Fox.
Okay.
Because somebody asked in a comment somewhere like what's a good gray to layer on top of another gray, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I think Silver Fox. I need to try it. So I'm like, one of these pens is going to get emptied out pretty quick, and I'm going to get a gray in there.
You mean to layer on top of another gray?
Like a gray light enough that you could, let it dry and then put another layer on top of it and have it darken in layers.
Like artwork?
Yeah,
kind of stuff? Okay.
And that's one thing I've always liked about grays is you can do that.
Yeah, because there's usually really good shading with grays.
Right, but you need to start with a lighter one. Okay. And I think Silver Fox hits the bullseye there, but I don't know. I need to try it. I miss
Interesting. Okay.
I was into that for a while.
Diamine Graphite has always been a favorite gray of mine.
Graphite is great, and
it looks like pencil lead. It looks like graphite.
Yeah,
with
it's
shading.
a little dark for I think these purposes that I'm talking about.
Sure,
but it is a fantastic gray.
Yeah, that's always been one I've appreciated.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, kind of to Nopal, I really, I mean, I like that. I mean, just anything blue, I'm gonna like that more than non-blue.
If anybody happened to be a big fan of the quantity versus quality thing, stay tuned. I might be doing something with that. We'll see.
We're thinking about it.
I think that there are more than a few people that resonate with that statement enough that we might want to do something for the people about that. So I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see. Let me know if there's any interest there.
Cool.
Or not. I don't care. I'll probably do it anyway.
Yeah, there you go. All right, that's all we got for feedback. Let's talk about some new stuff. All right, we're a little light on the new stuff this week, Drew.
We are.
And that's okay. It's not always going to be, busting at the seams every week. But one thing I wanted to encourage you all, I don't have anything specific to mention. Drew's got a few things. Wanted to point out we have this whole page on our site for coming soon, new arrivals, stuff like that. We have bottom shelf. There's some great places on our site where there are new things that are kind of churning through all the time. So those are great places to go and check out. If you don't have like a specific pen in mind, you just kind of want to keep tabs, see what's going on, what's interesting. So you can go and check those out. So I would encourage you to go check those out right now, just as we're kind of waiting. We have a bunch of new stuff that's kind of on the horizon.
Did you see this TWSBI Kai?
Yeah,
that looks pretty cool.
Another a non-demonstrator TWSBI.
I know, it's kind of the sequel to it's another one of their Aurora pens.
Yes, I've got their. They've done I think one called the Draco.
Yeah, that was it. So this is like the
sequel. I don't have a Draco.
Rachel does.
It just missed. You know what? Maybe that's why I don't.
Rachel
have
does.
it. Maybe she took it. That was a whole thing. What pen was that recently that she insisted on?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I can't remember. It was a whole thing.
It was a TWSBI.
It must have been a TWSBI.
It was definitely a TWSBI.
Was it the lapis blue, maybe the eco?
The blue and rose gold. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And,
I wanted the right one off because I wanted one for myself.
It was so fun.
And then Rachel was like, "Okay, well, if you're gonna have,
we don't need two.
We don't need two. So the one you have will just be mine, but you can keep it." And I was like, "What is this? What kind of power play is this?" It's like this whole thing now.
Oh, and then as soon as
I was like, if you want one, it's an eco. Like if you want one, you also have one, but I want one.
As soon as Brian started getting Rachel's like, okay, this is my opportunity to start poking him now. So you could tell she's like, she's like, and just like jabbing and poking. Brian's
I couldn't win.
No,
I couldn't win. It was like, no, she was like, no, it's not a big deal. It's all right. You can just, you can keep that one. It'll just be mine, but you can have it all. You can use it whatever you want. I'm like, really? Okay.
Oh, so funny.
What I should do is I should take another one, and then I'll keep them both, but one will be hers and one will be mine.
Long con, appreciate that. Yeah, we've got some cool like Pelican Machies here coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, the Pelican. I was confused because it's an M1000 Machie that's coming out, but they'll do like a special edition or limited edition every year. But sometimes they'll do a Rodden. I don't think they do a Rodden every year.
No, I don't think so.
But so this is more of like a traditional. I mean, not that Rodden's not traditional, but this is more of a, the Togodashi and Taka, Machie. This is like what you see in a lot of like Namiki.
And then they've got this crazy
like
Glauco Cambon.
Yeah, I don't even know what that one's all about.
I don't know either, but y'all can check it out on the website. It's funky looking. Yeah,
go check it out. I don't know what's up with that one.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with it.
Is that?
I don't know. It's something funky.
We got to read up about it.
But anyway, yeah, check it all out. It's a big mystery, but the mystery will reveal itself if you visit the What's New section.
Yeah.
Or coming soon.
Coming soon. What's new? All that stuff.
What is new, though, is some Wearing Goal stuff. So we've got a couple new things from the brand Wearing Goal, which traditionally it's ink and it's glitter potions, but we've got some paper things happening. So we're now selling Wearing Goal swab cards. So we've got the cards. They come in about 100 per pack. That is $6 for 100 cards. So these are just color chart cards. They're nice rigid paper. They show off ink really nicely. They're not super absorbent. They're just absorbent enough to not take forever to dry, but stuff will lay on top so you can show off some shimmer and some other ink properties.
If you're familiar with the coloring, it's like that, like a thick cardstock, that kind of thing, but it'll do well in showing things like shading and shimmer and stuff like that.
And I only used it briefly, but I think it's a little less absorbent than the coloring paper.
Okay.
So that might be for you, but so you can get the cards separately, or you can get the cards and you can get a card binder, which is another $6. So for just $12, you get the cards and the binder that the cards can go into. There are 40 sheets in that binder with 3 levels per sheet. So do the math if you want. I guess you could probably do them front to back and double your space there. But you can create your own binder.
true.
You know, it's cheap plastic. It's nothing fancy, but it'll hold your swabs. It'll make it so they're very easily accessible and visible to you. So you can store and transport and whatever, keep track of all of the inks that you use, so that if you remember really liking one, you can reference it quickly.
Yeah, and these cards too, they're like business card size.
Yeah.
So this card binder thing is essentially like a business card holder of sorts. So if you have a business card holder already that you're not using, because who uses business cards anymore, really? So you can just adapt one of those, and those cards will fit in there. So,
Probably.
But I mean, $6 for
we couldn't say no to these prices. We thought that was a good value for y'all.
Yeah, we were debating about even carrying it, because it's like that's not. It's more like a general office supply type product, but it seems like it seems like to get something comparable at like an Office Depot or Staples or something is like going to be at least that much anyway.
Yeah. So, but if you didn't want to go the individual cards and then putting them in the notebook route or in the swatch book route, you can get an actual notebook. So the A5 color swatch notebook is $9, and that's 40 pages of
it's like a wire bound.
Wire bound.
Yeah,
I want to say spiral bound. It's not spiral bound. It's not it's.
I guess it's not technically spiral bound.
Wire bound A5 notebook, and it has again the 3 levels there, so you can have it in a nice catalogable paper situation.
Yeah.
All very cool. The colors show up nicely. Definitely worth $9.
It looks nice as a group too.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like 4 of them on a page or something like
3
that.
3 or 4. Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Solid. Check them out. They're on the website. They're available now.
Yay ink stuff.
Boom boom.
All right, that's all we got for new stuff this week. Now let's get into the Q&A.
Okay, Brian, we got a gold question here.
A gold question?
Yes,
what does that mean?
JBots8883 is kicking us off this week with a question about gold. A question about nibs. 14K versus 18K and steel. Okay, so not just gold, but
Oh crap, I totally missed the steel part.
That's fine. Right. We know about steel. Characteristics of each, and why would you purchase one over the other? I think that we've spoken plenty of times about gold versus steel. I think
we have talked about that a bunch.
Well, we
can sprinkle some of that.
Yeah, sprinkle. But I think that the potatoes and the meat, if you will, 14K versus 21K or 18K.
18K or 20. Why not 21 too? Why not throw that in there?
Gold's gold, right, Brian?
Well, gold is gold, but different carats of gold are different things.
Oh.
Because there's less gold
Do
in
tell.
some versus the other. Okay.
Do tell.
Truth be told, I literally missed the word steel altogether when I looked at this initially. So we'll touch on some of that, but the bulk of my question in preparation that I did was about the gold. And, I have some of my own personal experience and observations from having used all these different nibs, because every nib that we've carried on our site I've written with for the Nib Nook, at least in that capacity, if not more.
That is true.
So I've gotten to experience every single nib that we carry for 14 years now, 13 years since we've done the Nib Nook. So that's quite a few nibs. And, as I'm using them, I kind of sort of catalog in the back of my brain how it feels, what difference it makes, and that kind of thing. So this question's a little bit tough because there is a difference between 14 karat and 18 karat and 21 for that matter, but it's not one that's necessarily discernible or commonly shared across pen brands.
Yep.
Because it's not the only factor.
Nope.
So just a little bit of gold nerdiness here. What actually makes them different? So 18 karat gold is 75% pure gold and 25% other stuff, other metal alloys. So
you said that's
silver. 18 karat is 75% gold.
Okay.
25% silver, copper, nickel, palladium, maybe some other stuff. And it has a Mohs hardness scale of 2.8. Do you remember that from science day way back in the day? No. Mohs doesn't sound familiar at all.
Mohs, Dwight Schrute's cousin.
M-O-H.
Oh.
Mo.
Nah.
That's the dude's last name.
Nope.
All right. 14 karat gold is a less pure, formulation, alloy of gold. 14 karat gold is 58% pure gold. So 18K is 75%, 14K is 58%. Or some 56, 50, there's slightly different, but 58 seems to be
What does Mo have to say about the hardness?
The hardness is harder. 3.5 to 4.
Because it's got more alloy, and
Because
gold is a soft
gold
material.
is softer than all the other metals in the alloy.
Gotcha.
So, there's a 17% difference overall in the gold content. Okay, like, will you notice that? Maybe. All else equal, exact same nib design, all the same work and style and all that kind of stuff. An 18 karat gold nib will be slightly bouncier, slightly softer, because the gold is going to be less rigid than the rest of the metals in the alloy. It's a softer metal. So you're going to have, a slightly bouncier, slightly springier, maybe slightly flexier type of writing experience. Again, all else being equal. But of course, not all else is equal. In fact, there are very few manufacturers that offer the same gold nibs in both 14 karat and 18 karat for you to even do a direct comparison.
I guess the closest way you could do a comparison would be to use a Sailor nibs and go between 18 and 21.
Well, it's a different size nib though. So it's different.
You're
yeah,
right.
it's
Golly.
different. Yeah, so it's
the nib isn't exactly the same. Dang.
Yeah. The only one that I could think of was Aurora has some of their nibs that are 14 karat and 18 karat. And it's the same thing. Like some of the 888s that they've done, or the 88s and the 888s, I don't know. But I mean, the price difference is significant to go to 18 karat just from 14 karat. It's usually like $150 or something. And it's never been all that popular, but it's more gold in there. It's more expensive. It's harder work, stuff like that. So it is kind of tough to do literally a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah, Visconti's got 18 and 14, but they're different. I believe the nibs are coming from different manufacturers.
Yeah, and they're slightly different styles, stuff like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of other factors when it comes to a nib. So it's thickness, the metals the other metals besides the gold that are used in the alloy, that can change the stiffness and the spring back and these other factors of the nib. The nib shape itself, the taper that it has, the curvature, if it's got cutouts and stuff like that can cause certain relief and it can affect the flexibility.
You could have a rigid as heck 21 karat gold nib and then a flexible steel nib.
100%.
Depending on the shape.
Exactly. So that's what makes this so tough to make just a blanket statement about pens in general. Is of course, 21 karat is going to be the best, then 18, then 14, then steel. Well, no, not necessarily, because there's so many other factors. Yes, if all else was equal and the nibs were the exact same design, same specs, then yes, those gold nibs would be softer.
Well,
that's usually not how it works.
Think about a good example would be the 21 karat nib on the 1911L versus the 21 karat nib on the 1911 King of Pens.
Exactly.
Totally different
Very
experience.
different experience.
Just because of the shape and size of the nib, not because of the gold content.
Exactly.
Totally different writing experience.
Very different experience.
The King of Pen nib is going to be way more bouncy.
Or like you said, the 21 karat, mid-size nib on the 1911 or the Pro Gear versus, or like Platinum's 18 karat nibs. Those tend to be pretty stiff as well. Or Platinum. Well, I guess most of those are 14 karats, but still the Platinum gold nibs tend to be pretty stiff. But then you look at the Pilot Falcon nib. That thing is soft and quite flexible. Or the E95S, that's another 14 karat nib. The custom 743 or the custom 912, FA Falcon nib. Those are very bouncy, very springy, and those are only 14 karat nibs. Those are all softer than all of the Sailor 21 karat nibs. So it's just not the only thing to take into account. So it does make it kind of tough when you say is it justifiable? Is it better? You kind of almost have to take each nib on its own, which obviously is tough when you're buying online because you don't usually get to try it beforehand, but you kind of have to rely on other people's reviews and us talking about it.
But to your point, you're rarely going to be faced with, oh no, what do I pick? The 14 or the 18? Because there are always going to be other factors involved because you're just not going to find the same exact pen being produced in 18 or 14, really. Yeah,
and most pens with gold nibs, the nibs are not going to be very interchangeable either. So really, when you're making a choice of pen based on a gold nib, you're pretty much looking at the pen as an entire package. You know what I mean? So it's if you want to get a Falcon, you're not oh, well, it's only 14K, not 18K. So therefore, I'm not interested in the Falcon.
Therefore, I'm going to go with the Sailor. No, there are way more important factors at play.
Yeah. So, yes, scientifically it does make a difference, but in practicality, in terms of nib performance and stuff like that, it on its own doesn't have as significant of a factor as you might think. Now, going from like steel to gold is a little bit more of a difference because steel pretty much across the board is going to be relatively stiff unless you have a nib design that is, a little bit more radically kind of designed to be flexible, like a Noodler's or an Omniflex nib, or, the Diplomat Magnum. That's like an unreasonably soft steel nib for some reason. Those are kind of the only three that I can really even think of that are like soft steel nibs. Everything else is pretty much going to be a nail.
Yeah. But then you could say the same thing about, some of the, Pro Gear, slim nibs. Like that doesn't have any bounce
really
to it.
Bouncy. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Do those even need to be gold nibs? Arguably.
Probably not.
If they made those in steel and it was cheaper, that would be something to think about. It's not up to us, but that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's no easy way to answer that. But I would say that definitely don't let the difference between 14K and 18K impact your buying decisions. Like if you're between two pens and one of them's 14, one of them's 18, don't just pick the 18 and expect that to be better for you. Think of another reason to make your call. That don't let that do it for you, because unless you just need an arbitrary, delineation, which I get, but it's not gonna deliver any meaningful difference for you.
Yeah, when I was doing some research trying to like find, about the differences of the 14 and 18K, all it brought up was all these articles related to jewelry,
right?
And about like 14, 18K, and everything that I was reading in there was so like marketing speak of just like, oh, well, 18K is just got an obvious like brilliance to it. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, that's so subjective, just the natural essence that it'll have of that. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, what is the science here? Like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
From what I could tell from like a jewelry standpoint, like they'll tend to use 14 karat for when they're like doing the prongs that are like holding in a gem or something like that, because it's going to be a little stronger, right? So it's a little stiffer, a little stronger. So like structurally you'll use that, whereas, you might use it, I don't know, it's somewhere different if it's, 18K, something, more flashy or
decorative. Yeah.
Yeah. But 18K can like scratch easier. It can wear a little easier because it's a softer metal. So, nib wise, I don't think that's as much of an issue. I haven't really had any issues of like people with 18 or 21K nibs, like having them look really worn over time. I think as in general, you're not like, it's not like jewelry where you're like knocking around with it all the time. Pens, you tend to kind of take care of them a little more, and they're not as exposed to like the elements, I guess.
And then that all also comes down to the finishing, the plating, and the polishing too.
Yeah,
like you got so many variables.
If you got a gold nib that's plated, that's like silver colored, it's plated in rhodium. Well, then the durability thing doesn't matter at all because it's plated in a harder metal altogether. So yeah, and plating, it's such a thin, just in case you're curious, like the flexibility and all that kind of stuff. We do get asked this from time to time, whether a nib is like pure yellow gold or whether it's plated in something like rhodium to make it look silver. It doesn't affect the nib's performance at all. It's such a thin coating on there. It's like electroplated. You're talking microns thick. It's not going to actually affect things like flexibility and stiffness and that kind of thing. It's literally just going to give it sort of like having a clear coat on your car. It doesn't like strengthen, your car. It's literally just a thin coating on there. So anyway.
Call the insurance company. Yeah, I just put a clear coat on. So my deductible going down a little bit.
My car's more durable.
I'm safer now, right?
Yeah, I'll be safer in a wreck because I have a thin coat of plastic on it. Anyway.
That's not how that works.
No, not so much. Cool. All right. I got kind of a 2-for-1 for you here, Drew.
All right.
All right. This is from GV0861. I noticed that every pen company whose product you sell offers more styles than what I see on your website. How do you decide what styles you will sell? And to go along with that, Rubber Kid 100 says, is there a specific reason you don't carry the super cheap Pelican pens, e.g. the Pelicano? Or do you just reckon they wouldn't sell well enough? I don't know, Drew, what do you reckon?
Well, I reckon the Pelicano didn't sell good the first time we sold it, nor the second time, so we're not going to try a third.
We might. Never say never.
All right. Probably not. We have tried the. I thought we tried the Pelicano once before.
It's been twice.
Rachel informed me that
We tried the
had been
Pelicano
twice.
Junior. We had the Pelicano Junior
Didn't we do both?
and the Pelicano back in the day.
And then we just brought back the Pelicano.
And then
Okay.
Rachel couldn't stomach bringing back the Pelicano
Right.
Junior, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to die on this hill.
Yeah.
It's not that great of a pen.
Yeah, no,
It's fine.
we have picked it up and dropped it twice now. They just didn't sell. So ultimately, the answer to your question is we carry things that we think are going to sell, and we drop the things that don't, or don't pick up the things that we think are not going to sell. So in the case of the Pelicano and the Script and some other, more accessible Pelican models, they have more or less all been tried, and we've concluded that our customer base is not particularly interested in them, so we said bye-bye to them. So we did not recently, like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, look at the Pelicano again, and then we decided, let's try the Twist instead. So we did say yes to the Twist.
Well, they came out with a bunch of new colors of the Twist, and that's part of why we were
Yeah.
looking at that, is because it looked a little more
So
interesting.
we did try the Twist. We're always curious. We're always
Yeah.
interested in giving second chances, trying something new.
I think the Twist was a reboot too. I'm pretty sure we carried it years ago, at least a couple of the
It
colors.
might have been before me.
It may have been, because Pelican was the second brand we ever carried. We had like Jeroboam, Rhodia, Clairefontaine.
Because I don't think when I first got hired, we were carrying the Script and the Pelicano. I don't think we were
Yes.
carrying the Twist.
we didn't carry the Twist at that time. I think we brought it on later.
But I remember-
maybe we didn't.
I think you had a sample of one for
I had
a
a
long
couple
time.
of Twists from back in the day.
I don't know if we ever
Maybe
sold
never
them, though.
it. Maybe we never sold it.
But anyway, we
So
will
long. It's like
we
a
will definitely
decade
try,
ago.
and we've definitely given second chances plenty of times, because the company, we're not a 50-year-old company or anything, but we've been around long enough to know that, all right, well, we tried this when we were in a different stage of our history. The environment has changed, the industry has changed. Let's give them a second shot. So we're not afraid of that. Even if something fails once, doesn't, we'll
Well, we've had that happen before, like with the ink cartridges, for example. It used to be like nobody wanted ink cartridges. And so we would try carrying a few here and there, but they never sold well. It was hardly worth carrying. It's a cheap product, and the ink, if no one ever buys it, then it will get old. And the ink cartridges specifically, they're meant to be disposable. So the plastic that's used in those cartridges will actually like off gas the ink out of there. And so if you have them for like literally years, then like the ink level will go down. You'll end up with this like highly concentrated like ink inside these cartridges. So that's not good. So it's like, okay, well, if nobody's going to buy them, then forget it. And then we brought them back several years later, and lo and behold, they're still not like super hot sellers.
They're better.
But they sold better, like
Yeah.
enough for us to expand and carry more. So like we're always open to trying more.
Small bottles too. We used to not sell as many small bottles. Now small bottles are what people want. So it just depends on the economy, things like that. Things shift and ebb and flow. We try to roll with the punches there.
Definitely.
A lot of the time, if you see a model like, I don't know, the Vanishing Point, where you might notice that some other retailers have some colors that we don't have, it's very likely that A, the color has been discontinued by the manufacturer, or B, we started off carrying them and the sales just did not dictate that we continue to reorder them and go through the effort of stocking them and things like that.
Like the brown Metal Falcon.
I was thinking the yellow Vanishing Point, but sure, Brian.
I think Pilot ended up eventually discontinuing that, didn't they?
The brown?
The yellow Vanishing Point?
Oh, I don't know. They discontinued the brown one.
The brown
which
Falcon?
I also liked. No, the brown Vanishing Point.
Oh yeah, that thing is.
It's not the best brown.
It's not a great brown.
I like the yellow though. I will stand by that.
Yellow's
I think the
all right.
yellow Vanishing Point is
Yellow's
fantastic.
all right. It's like school bus yellow, or like more like canary yellow.
No, I think it has more of like a mid-century appliance sort of yellow.
Like a harvest gold.
No,
as it was
not
called.
quite. It's definitely yellow, but
That was
like
like
more
70s.
more like floral picnic basket 1961 yellow.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's very specific.
I like it. So yeah, if you see things missing, it's probably because they just don't sell. We actually have a fantastic team here. Jeremy, our data analyst, Sam, our director of operations. They are a phenomenal team, as well as some other folks that are involved in making sure that our the stock that we keep in our warehouse, because we don't drop ship anything. Everything that we have on our website, we have through those doors right there, like that. We have it. If you can buy it from us, that means we have it. more or less, with a couple of like super expensive exceptions. But we don't overstock things, or we try not to. We try really hard not to, and they're really good at making sure that we have the right amount of stuff. And we're not gonna just have things laying around here that aren't moving. If things don't move, we clear them out, make room for things that we think are going to move.
Yeah.
So we try hard there. They've gotten pretty good at it as the years have gone on.
It's a lot of time and energy that goes into just managing inventory correctly.
Because that's all money sitting back there. Like we can't just keep spending and like adding stuff until it all sells. Like, no, like we gotta, it's like, it's gotta be
y'all have to want it. Like,
right.
We're not here to just like collect a warehouse full of pens for no reason.
No.
It's gotta be something you want. So we have like certain goals for how quickly we're trying to, turn over certain products and stuff like that. And granted, we're not like selling goods that expire per se. Like ink, we don't want to hang on to ink for years just because it's not that it expires necessarily, but we want to keep that stuff sort of fresh. But pens, they don't really go bad or anything. So it's like they can sit there forever, but it just doesn't really do anybody good for us to sit on a bunch of.
But every item that we have, we also understand how long it takes for them all to sell out and be restocked. Every single one. We know how long it takes for them all to sell through. What's the term for that?
Turnover.
Yeah. So we have turnover rates on all of our products. We pay very close attention to that. And in doing that, we have a pretty good idea of colors that may not be super popular, materials, lots of different things, so that when we do evaluate new products, if we are going to pick up a new pen model, for example, and it comes in 5 colors and, maybe it's a newer brand that we're not like super sure about, but we're going to give it a shot. But of the 5 initial offerings, there's a yellow one and a white one. Probably not going to pick up those. Yeah. Probably going to skip on the yellow and skip on the white, because we know that traditionally those are the weakest sellers. Yeah. And maybe we will if it's a particular type of white or particular type of yellow or reds. Reds is one of those that traditionally doesn't do well, but if it's the right red.
Reds and greens can be very hit or miss.
Yeah,
oranges too.
Yeah, so it has to be the right one. But like we pay attention to all that. We do our best. It's not an exact science, but we do try to use our data to inform our decisions and the inventory side of things.
Yeah. And then, there might also be, especially if you're looking at anything that's made in a different country, which most fountain pen products are not made in the U.S. Some of what you may see online might be models that are not brought into the U.S. at all, or colors that are not brought into the U.S.
There are lots of those.
Or it could be a retailer exclusive somewhere else, so there may be things that literally just are not accessible to us for whatever reason. Or it could be, some limited or special edition from years past that we sold through, but other retailers still have, that can happen too. So it's like, in effect, that's kind of like something that's maybe discontinued.
Yeah.
There's just old stock, maybe not that old, but still old stock kind of sitting there. So it could be a number of reasons, but we're always open to it. Like you can always email our team, reach out and just be like, hey, I'm looking for this. Do y'all have it? Can you get it? Is anything, because we do generally pay attention to that, or even just like leaving comments on YouTube and stuff like that. We are meeting on a weekly basis about new products and stuff like that. And if there is a groundswell of interest around particular products or things like that, we will give them a second look for sure.
We'll always talk about it.
Yeah.
It's something we're very intentional about. I'll say that.
Absolutely. Cool.
All right. Third question this week is from, I'm going to say Dr. Nimish 333.
Sure.
How to fix the Scratchy Nib at home. Any tips? The Scratchy Nib, Brian.
Hopefully your nibs have tips.
Heard.
Though it doesn't necessarily have to be tipped. That's the thing.
That's true.
But untipped nibs will generally not hold up as long. Yes. Insert disclaimer here. Anything that you're doing with your own nib work is going to be pretty much avoiding all manufacturing warranty stuff. So you're going to be on your own doing any of this kind of stuff, except maybe some slight adjustment if it seems off, if you don't do anything too crazy. But if you're talking about actually like smoothing or grinding or anything like that, no one is going to keep that warranty because you've altered the product.
Yeah, keep in mind, anytime you take your nib tip to an abrasive, even if it's something seemingly soft like micromesh or a little buff stick, you are removing material from your nib. Even if it doesn't seem like it. I know you're not grinding away with sandpaper, but That's what it is. You are removing material.
Yeah.
So the second you start removing material is the second your warranty is void.
That's why we sort of like cautiously carry some like nib tuning supplies on our site, because it is a very delicate place to be, especially for us as like an authorized retailer. We got to be careful about how we talk about these things. So anyway, all that disclaimer stuff there. If you're working on a pen that's like out of warranty or it's secondhand or it's whatever, then go nuts. It's all yours. Or if you just are fine with taking it into your own hands, cool. So first thing I'll note is that there is a difference between toothy and scratchy.
Important distinction.
Yes. Which doesn't mean that you can't alter that to make it smoother. I mean, if it's toothy and not necessarily scratchy and you just want it to be smoother, that's totally fixable. Like, you can definitely do that.
It's only toothy and scratchy if someone is literally biting you.
And scratching you with...
No. Scratching you with their teeth, Brian.
Is that technically a bite?
If someone's scratching you with their teeth.
I think that's considered a bite.
I agree.
Is that a bite and a scratch, though?
It doesn't feel...
I've never thought about this because it's not a scenario that often comes up in
when you least expect it.
Life. Oh, boy.
I'm going to hire some biting ninjas to attack you.
Okay. Well, all seriousness back in play here. So yeah, just keep that in mind. If we're talking about like a pen that is performing as intended, just not as smooth as you'd like, we'll talk about how to address that, because that basically is like some of the latter steps of what you would do to fix a scratchy nib. So I'm going to focus a little more on scratchy since that's what you actually asked about, and then we'll talk about the smoothing. So there's a couple of helpful tools. If you don't have these tools around your house, it's going to be tougher to do because you're just working with something very small, very fine. So yes, you can do this at home, but you might have to get some special supplies that you don't already have on hand. So one of them is a loop of some kind. You may have one from some other reason, a jeweler's loop, or we sell these little loops. So that's really helpful to inspect your actual work. We sell some micro mesh. It's like this little gray sheet, almost feels like leather. Yeah. It's a very fine abrasive. And then we sell even finer abrasives of Mylar paper. These are not as necessary. Unless you like really smooth nibs, you probably don't even need to mess very much with Mylar paper. But it is also an abrasive technique.
I personally never use Mylar. I've just used micro mesh.
I will use Mylar because I like things to be very smooth.
I like a little bit of texture.
And then we don't sell these. We probably could. I don't know. We just never sourced them out. But you can get these almost anywhere. It's literally just like a nail buffing stick. Like you can get it at any cosmetics section or drugstore or whatever, grocery store. So it's a nail buffing stick, but it has different levels of abrasive on it. The gray part, and sometimes they'll be different colors. Sometimes it'll be white and pink and gray and whatever. So this particular one that I have, I've had it for years, and I've clearly used it. It's got ink on it and stuff.
Oh yeah, I use mine. my you can't see any more gray.
Oh really?
No, it's just all
which is fine. So yeah, the gray part here is literally micro mesh. It's like the same grit as this. So you probably don't even need this.
And that is 15,000, right?
12,000.
12,000, okay.
But the 12,000 grit, it's not necessarily the same grit as other like sandpaper or like stuff like that. I don't know. Micro mesh is kind of on its own scale. Measurement, yeah. But it's a very, 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 very fine abrasive. And then this one has a white and a black. The black is the most aggressive. I almost never use the black because that's for like
sandpaper.
That's like reshaping.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive. The white, I've used a little bit more. That's more helpful for getting out like a scratchy kind of nib thing. So, okay. So those are the tools. It's really not, you really don't need much more than that. Unless you're going to be like grinding, like if you want to take a nib and make it into a stub or something like that. You can technically just do that by hand, but it's going to take you a while. Usually that's done with some sort of abrasive wheel or disc or something like that. We're not talking about that. Then now you're talking into like actual nib grinding work. That's a whole other level. So really it's just like if you're not trying to alter your nib size or change the shape or anything like that, you just want to get it to write smoother again. These are all the tools you need. So first thing you want to do before you do any nib, tweaking at all is you want to make sure that your tines are aligned. You always got to check the alignment first. And that's why Drew has these little styrofoam ball halves.
Yeah. Got these at the craft store to demonstrate this exact thing.
Yeah.
More often than not, if you're dealing with a scratchy nib, it's because it's misaligned. And a great way to define that is by dragging it from left to right on the paper. And if one side, if it's scratchy from left to right, but not the other way, or vice versa, that usually means that one tine is lower than the other, like this right here.
Yeah, you get like that inside edge
right.
of the tip.
Right now, if this nib is going across the paper that way, this part right here is going to be just grinding down into the paper.
But if you go the other way with it,
if you
it's
go
going to
the other
feel
way
fine
with it,
because it's rounded on that side.
That way is going to be super smooth. And, same thing with this one. So what you do in that case is you really just this is probably the only thing you can do with your fingers and no loop is, a fix like this. You can just
if you have decent enough eyesight.
Yeah. You can just take this, take the tip here and push it down. You kind of got to balance it. If it's steel or gold, always got to balance it. You might not need to
like overcorrect it a little bit.
You kind of push it down to here and see where it springs down. Push it down to here, see where it springs. And eventually it's going to start coming back, and it'll even out.
Yeah.
You do try to press down more than, pulling. You want to take the good one and bring it down rather than the bad one and bring it up. You can do a little bit of both, but what you want to avoid is moving the tines away from the feed.
You don't want it to be like, end up doing this, because then it can break the flow.
The feed is your friend. You want to make sure that the nib stays mated up with the feed. But eventually you'll get it to be this nice, lovely round shape that it is intended to be.
Yeah.
Now, one little asterisk next to this is that don't just look at a nib, and if you see it slightly off, assume that that is bad. Because every now and then, if it's ground while it's misaligned, it can still write just fine, even if it looks like it's misaligned. Really let the symptoms tell the story. Don't just take it at face value.
Yeah, a lot of nib work is based on feel, not just how it looks.
Yeah.
But if it's an egregiously visual error, then that's probably
obviously this is not going to write well. No chance.
But especially with gold nibs, because gold nibs have some more flexibility to them, if there is a slight misalignment and that's the only thing, a lot of times just the pressure from you writing will actually bring down, the tine, and it'll feel perfectly smooth. I
mean, ideally, if you take it to a professional, even the most slight misalignment will get corrected.
Yeah,
but if it's ground while it's misaligned, they'll need to do a couple extra steps in addition to that. So that's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about stuff you can do at home. And as far as that goes, let the symptoms dictate what you do to fix it.
Yeah. So when I'm adjusting something like in that kind of situation, again, I usually don't even need to use a loop. Sometimes I will, just to check it. But I'll kind of hold the pen in my hands like this, and I'll just stare straight into the nib. And then I'll just use my eyes, and I'll just kind of take my thumb, and I'll either bend up, if it's going to be gentle. Drew just said to bend down. But you can bend down too. So you can just...
It's easier to bend up.
It's definitely easier to bend up, and I tend to do that more myself. But you can use your best judgment.
You can do a little. I like to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, so you can just kind of stare right at it, and you can usually see if it's aligned enough. It's hard when it's a really, really fine nib size. If it's like an extra fine or a fine, it's going to be tougher. Whereas if you have a broad, the tipping is going to be bigger. It's easier to visually see. That's where the loop can really help you a lot. And you literally just kind of hold up to the loop. You look straight at it, and you can see, oh, okay, it's aligned or it's not.
But keep in mind, even if you're pointing it right at your eye, you're not writing with that part of the pen. Depending on your angle, you're writing with one of the lower points of the writing pad. So just keep that in mind when you're assessing your tipping material.
Yeah, so there is a point called the writing pad that if you hold the pen around a 45-degree angle, that's generally where most people hold the pen. If the writing surface is here, the pen's at this angle. Where the tip needs to be the smoothest is right, at that point. So the easiest way to check that, it's kind of weird, but you turn the pen so that the face of the nib is facing towards you, and then you bend it about 45 degrees. So it's sort of like the inverse of if you were writing, you flip it that way, and then you look at it with a loop that way. So then you're sort of staring kind of across that writing pad, if that makes any sense. It's kind of hard visually. So I'll end up having...
Yeah, sorry, podcast listeners.
Yeah, we're trying to describe it in such a way that makes sense, but whatever. So then I can look at it and I can see that writing pad, and the alignment. You can check the alignment that way. Okay, so once you got your alignment is good and you're kind of writing on paper and it still feels a little scratchy, well, there's a couple of things that could be causing that. One is it could just not be smoothed, just overall to your liking, in which case you would then use your little buff stick here. Probably, personally, I'm more inclined to start with the smoothest grit and then go back, because if you start, with a more aggressive grit, then you have to go through all the steps to make it smooth again. Whereas if you start with the gray or like a micro mesh,
And you never really know how little it might take. It's
usually doesn't take a lot.
It might surprise you, even if it feels really bad. Just see if a little bit on the most gentle abrasive will help, and if it does, yay! That's best case scenario, isn't it? Like always check for the best case scenario, and then go more severe if you need to.
Yeah. So the thing you don't want to do is just start going nuts and making all these huge movements and stuff, because a lot of times if it's a scratch, it's usually just like a tiny little nick, or it's just a little spot that could be causing that scratch. And if you go and smoothing around the whole thing, you could end up kind of changing the shape of that, or you could end up having some unintended consequences.
If you go really, really bad, you can start taking your nib and just grinding it on the abrasive, grinding it. And then one day, this is what your nib looks like, because you've completely sheared off the whole front of it because you were too aggressive with your grinding.
Yeah, that can happen.
We've seen that.
Yeah, I recommend starting this with like inexpensive pens you don't care about as much. Steel nibs are a little easier to practice on than gold nibs for this kind of stuff. So a couple of things. It could be like the general overall kind of shape, like the ball of the nib, which I'll talk about in a second. But I find that oftentimes what happens when there's scratchiness, if you check the alignment and all that, usually what happens, if you think about when you're making a nib, okay, so you've got your nib, you're welding the tip onto the nib, and then this is like the manufacturing process. And then they have this disc, like wheel, that comes through and cuts through the tipping and through the slit of the nib. And then all the handwork and stuff is done to like tune and shape that tip of the nib. And the alignment and all that stuff is kind of checked in there. Well, if you are smoothing and making this all nice and round and beautiful, you're still going to have kind of a sharp little inside edge here. So in the manufacturing process,
like you would with wood.
Yeah, exactly. Just like if you're making a piece of furniture and you have these like crisp cuts and you make this furniture and it's got like these razor sharp edges to it, that's not good, because you can actually like cut yourself on the edge.
And a lot of the times where
you gotta like round that over a little bit.
Yeah, and if you ever saw it anything, when you start your cut, it looks nice and clean, but then when you exit your cut, things are gnarly.
It can be. Yeah.
It can be.
So the step that perhaps could have been missed in manufacturing, or maybe just like didn't get quite done all the way, is just to round over that tiny little bit on the inside bottom of each of the tips of the nib. So it's a little nuanced here, but I've found that more often than not, that might fix any scratchiness that I come across. So the way to address that, and it's especially easier if you have a buff stick, if you have just a floppy micro mesh sheet, you can still do it, but it gets a little tougher because it's so floppy. So you take just your gray like micro mesh part. The part that you're wanting to, if you got your two halves of the nib and it's feeling, say for example, it's feeling scratchy when it goes left to right. So that it's the left inside part that's scratching. What I would do is I would bend down, I would use my finger and I would bend down that left tine, and then I would take that and I would just do the slightest little nick on the inside. Really doesn't take much, just a little flick onto it, and then I would try it on the paper again and see if that got it. Probably 8 times out of 10, that is probably going to get it from like a new pen that's not like been used over time and stuff like that. That might get it, because it might just be a little bit of that inside edge that needs to be rounded. Now, if you do that too much, that's where you can get what's called baby's bottom, right? So you don't want to overdo it, but try doing that slight little nicking. Now, if you have, any other type of work, if you've, had to more aggressively grind it, or if you don't like how toothy it feels and you want to make the overall nib smoother, and you try doing that little inside nicking and it still is just feeling too toothy, too grabby, that's where the overall kind of smoothing process comes in. So you can do this with a buff stick or the micro mesh sheet. And basically what you want to do, it helps if the nib is actually inked, because the ink will help to sort of lubricate, because you're actually grinding away just a tiny bit of metal, but it'll actually work a little more smooth and more consistently if it's wet.
Let me also interrupt and say that it's also helpful because you need to be testing this a lot.
Yeah.
Anytime you're working with any of these steps that we've outlined, Do a tiny bit and test.
Yeah.
Do a tiny bit and test. And when it's inked up, you'll have a much better indication of what it's actually going to feel like. Because if it's dry, you might think it's scratchier than it actually will end up being.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you may go through some of the steps and then you try it on the page and you're like, this feels exactly like I want it to. And you stop. You don't need to keep going. So that's why it's really good to constantly be testing as you're doing each step, like Drew mentioned.
Even like if it's pretty good, leave it alone.
Stop. Don't overdo it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, how frustrating is that? How
Oh,
many nibs have you tried?
So many.
I'm like, I can make this a little bit better.
So
and then
many.
I do more stuff and it makes it worse. And I'm like, dang it.
So many. Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. There's an element of learning curve and frustration that is inherent with doing nib work. Don't be discouraged by that. It's just a part of the process. So get it to where you're happy with it and stop. So yes, the most important thing when you're actually doing the smoothing, you don't use a lot of pressure, right? You really only use as much pressure as like the weight of the pen, because the more pressure you give, the more aggressively it's going to grind. And especially if you're using a buff stick or a micro mesh sheet like this, it's not rock solid firm. There's a little bit of give to it. It's kind of a little cushioned pad. So if you're digging into it, you're actually going to be like kind of shaping away more of the material than you even intend.
You also don't want to press too hard, because if you are using a gold nib or something with even a little bit of flex to it, you could end up opening up those tines and doing exactly what Brian was describing,
baby's bottom and all this type of stuff,
rounding out the inside of your tines, which is going to just ruin your flow.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So again, just gentle. You can do a figure eight pattern. You don't necessarily have to. The key is you want to just make sure that you're getting even coverage around that nib tip. So, you're just going to kind of move it back and forth. You want to rotate it, side to side. You want to move it up and down. You want to just, you do small movements, but you just want to make sure that you're getting good coverage kind of around the whole general shape of that nib. And, do that a little bit, test it, do a little bit more, test it. And then that generally is going to get you to where you want to be. Just with the micro mesh, I would say, if you think about, Sailor nibs, I think of Edison nibs because I know Edison is known for being like smooth with a hint of feedback, as the language that Brian Gray uses. That's what the micro mesh is going to get you. Very smooth, very consistent, not glassy smooth though. If you want to go smoother, you can with the micro mesh, the Mylar paper. We have two grits of it. The green one is the more aggressive. The white one is even smoother. It's like, 1 micron and 0.3 micron or something crazy like that. So thin. It doesn't even feel like abrasive at all. That's why they're different colors. You can tell the difference between them at all. So this, you don't have to do like a full figure eight kind of thing though, because you've already done all the shaping and all the general stuff that you need to there. This, all you're really trying to do is just get that last little touch of it. So really all you need to do is kind of just like touch it onto there and then like just give it a little flick. Just a little flick kind of away. Give that a couple times and then try it on there. You don't need to go nuts on this material because it's so fine anyway. Just little flicks and then do that on the white if you want to go even smoother. And then by then, if you've done it right, it's going to be the smoothest nib you've ever used in your life. So that's basically the process. Did we cover everything there, Drew?
I think so.
Okay. Sorry if it visually wasn't the most compelling thing in the world. We probably could do a more detailed video on that in the future if we wanted to, but there's some good videos. Stephen Brown's got some good videos out there with nib tuning and stuff like that. There's others that have done it, but it's something a lot of people in the fountain pen world are a little hesitant to do because there are so many variables and it's so difficult to show in video the super tight detail you're trying to do. So I don't know. We've never like tackled it head on, but
I'll also say that one great thing about the current fountain pen industry and its community is that we have more nib specialists and technicians available to us than we've ever had before. I mean, not since, I guess the golden age of fountain pens anyway. We've got a lot of folks that are very qualified to take care of you. And I would say on behalf of them, if you are at all concerned or hesitant, don't try it yourself first, because that can sometimes make it harder for them to work their magic. So just take that into account as well. We've got a lot of folks out there that would be happy to make your pen perfect for you that have a ton of experience in that.
Yeah. And another thing too, if you ever find yourself at a pen show, pretty much every pen show will have somebody working nibs.
Yeah.
You can generally just kind of lurk at their table and see what they're doing.
I wouldn't advise like.
Not like in an annoying way.
Oh, just definitely don't do that.
But if you're curious as to their process,
I will say
you can
they-
sort of hang back a little bit and just watch like what tools they're using, what techniques do they use, you know.
Yeah, and they're always happy to answer questions. So
yeah,
just don't be annoying.
yeah. Okay, moving on. We got a question from Businessman 912. Very official here.
Businessman.
Which amount of pens is an ideal balance between practicality, for example, you're not straining to give all your pens the love they deserve, like me, and variation, i.e., you're not confounded to one nib size, color, etc.
Okay.
So where's that perfect balance, Drew?
It's at 10, Brian.
Oh,
10 pens is
Is
what
it
you
now?
need. Yes, that's what you need.
you're that
10 pens
you're
is the
that
number.
certain about it.
Absolutely. There are some great 10 pen cases.
Oh, okay.
They're easy to confine. It just makes sense. 10 pens. That's what you need. I could absolutely live with 10 pens.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
That would be really tough. If
It
I
would.
had to.
Now
I could do it. I could do it. if I
Now,
had
what
to.
I'm going to describe, I'm going to describe 10 use cases for each of your 10 pens. This is not how I would build my 10 collection because I don't care about capacity, but I'm going to outline a general, like, this is how a 10 pen system could work for you.
Okay, this is like a doomsday prepper, pack of pens.
Yeah. In a way.
If you need to cover all your bases.
I think so.
Okay.
So I'm going to try. So pen number 1, a high capacity pen, vac filler, piston, internal piston for journaling. And for journaling, I say that because you don't want to put a crazy nib on this. A fine, a very
pretty conventional.
Pretty conventional nib. But for journaling, this is going to be your high capacity pen you can write a long time with. That's going to have a consistent flow.
What capacity are you thinking is a high capacity?
Anything with an internal,
like a piston or a vacuum?
anything
filler,
with an
basically?
internal reservoir.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
Second pen is also a capacity pen. So again, another internal reservoir, but this time high ink output, something that's going to be fun. If you want to really just splosh your ink all over the page, if you've got something really fun you want to show off, a high capacity pen with a broad or a stub or something that's going to just
flex maybe.
Maybe, yeah, something that's just going to ooze the ink out. Like you can just have a good old party. So maybe some like those pens that are great for, chromo shading or high sheen, but you really only get it when you put a ton of ink down.
Yeah.
But
even shading to a degree.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want to do that in a pen with a little tiny Con 40 in there because your
You'll
party
use the ink quickly.
your party's going to be over before it starts. So this is going to be your fun capacity pen.
Okay.
And then number 3 is going to be a Kakamori dip nib for your swabbing and testing inks. Just if you're going to only have 10 pens, having that in your
Or glass pen. Glass could be the same purpose, but
no, it's not as durable.
yeah, it's true. And not consistent.
Also,
they're all handmade.
We're putting these in a pen case, Brian. This is going to be
the glass
clanking
pen
around
is,
with everything else.
Yeah, glass pen is definitely not durable.
Leave your glass pen somewhere else. We're going to go with Kakamori.
Okay.
And then
hot take. Drew thinks Kakamori is better than glass pens.
Absolutely. Just durability.
Yeah,
I've broken so many glass pens, Brian.
Yeah,
that.
I've broken some too. Yeah.
I feel strongly about this.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pen number 4 is going to be your pocket pen. Do whatever you want there. It's going to be a pocket pen, so you're probably going to be carrying it around. You want to have a more or less conventional nib size on that one, but something that can be easily pocketable. So when you're going to your fancy event and you don't have your normal purse, you have your little clutch. You need a clutch pen. Then again, any pen will fit in a clutch. But you get what I'm saying. You get it. If you're assembling in a carport and you need something in your cargo pants, there you go. Shorts, cargo shorts.
That's right. Or pants. Could be pants too.
You need a hammer that a fountain pen can unscrew from the bottom of it. That way you can put it in your hammer loop. Always have a fountain pen ready to go instead of
into that. I'd be into that. I would be into a multi-tool that has a fountain pen incorporated into it.
Speaking of nonsensical ways to use your fountain pen, my number 5 fountain pen is going to be your expendable fountain pen. So this is going to be your pen that A, you might not care about losing, B, you are not going to be hesitant to let somebody at work borrow this and have them either try to just pull off a threaded cap or shove too hard on the tines.
This should have a snap cap. It should not be a threaded cap.
Great idea.
Because most people that aren't familiar with fountain pens are going to pull the pen apart
So
first.
I'm thinking Safari, Preppy, Explorer,
Varsity,
Metropolitan, Varsity.
Varsity is like perfect for this.
Something that's expendable. Something that if you want to take this to a particular airport, you don't know if
Would you swipe would
if
be
it
good
gets
for this,
lost.
probably?
Yeah, swipe absolutely. So something that if it gets lost, stolen, ruined by a silly coworker, you're not going to lose sleep over it. You can replace it. So number 5 is your expendable pen. Number 6 is going to be your fancy pen. So this is just a pen that, well, even if it's not fancy, something that if you buy a house and you want to, write, sign your lease with something memorable, it's nice to have a pen that you're like, okay, I'm going to use my special pen.
Or like job interviews, or
it could be
going to a bank.
It could be
get a bank loan, or
it could be $100 pen or a $10,000 pen, whatever's special to you. But your specialty. Maybe you don't use this all the time. Well, expensive means a lot of things to a lot of people.
True.
And number 7 is going to be your soft nib for fun writing. So whether or not you want a pen with a heavy degree of line variation, or something like the E95S that if you just wanted to make one final swipe during your signature, you can get a little bit. But something that's just a little bit more fun to write with, something that is going to give you some balance, a little bit more excitement. Maybe you can put a little bit of line variation in there while you're writing. It's good to have a fun pen like that.
Would you classify flex nibs here? Like, doesn't necessarily have to be flex, but just
I say soft nib because flex is...
You would classify flex as soft.
Modern flex equals soft in
More or less,
a lot of people's definitions. So I'm just going to say soft. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, anything with some balance or some variation to it. Number 8, I'm going to go with my Japanese extra fine for bad paper. I know a lot of folks do not like Japanese extra fine, so I'm a little biased here. I love them, but even if you don't like them, you can find a Japanese extra fine that isn't scratchy. There are now toothy is what I should say. They're not scratchy. Vanishing Point extra fine is one of my favorites, but you do feel it. Like, it makes noises on the paper.
It doesn't feel good.
But I love it. I love it. Probably my favorite extra fine. But there are other ones that do feel more conventionally better. But my thing is, and you can go with the Japanese fine too. What I'm getting at is, if you're out and about and you don't have access to good fountain pen friendly paper, having a very, very fine nib is not the worst thing in the world, because it does, put a good ink in there that doesn't feather a whole lot. It's going to be more applicable to a wider variety of paper surfaces. So it's good to have one of those in the arsenal as well.
Yeah.
And rounding out number 9 here is going to be your everyday pen, or your quick draw pen, something that you can apply to a very versatile set of circumstances, whether it be note-taking or journaling or anything that your everyday might throw at you. Something that maybe I'm just going to Target. I probably won't need a fountain pen, but I'm going to bring this one just in case. I don't know. So just a good all-around pen. And then finally, I'm going to put in a Retro 51 rollerball here at number 10. It's not a fountain pen.
What?
But sometimes...
Well, neither is a Kakamori.
No, but sometimes the fountain pen, is not the ideal choice. I know that's crazy, but...
What are you talking about?
We wouldn't sell...
Sacrilege.
We wouldn't sell as many Retro 51s if that weren't the case. So
I think it's an accepted pen in the fountain pen community.
But let's say, like, the worst thing is getting stuck admitting that a rollerball is the best choice for right now and having to settle for something with no personality. If I'm going to get stuck with a rollerball, it's going to be my rollerball that's going to be fun, and it's going to have personality, and I'm going to have a connection to it because it was the one that I picked out because it's got a spaceship on it or something like that. It's going to be cool. I have too many pens at my disposal for me to write with something that has no personality. That shouldn't happen. If that happens to me, I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that for me anyway. So there you go. That's my 10.
Wow. It's very thought out. Yeah, I agree with this. I did not go with thorough on this answer, but it's your question anyway.
Yeah, so you don't need to.
I said probably 10 to 20. I feel like I could narrow it down to 10 if I had to.
Yeah.
But 20 would be more fun. 30 would be even more fun.
I think in 20, you could have, a lot of the same things with some repeats.
Yeah. Or you could have
a couple quick draw pens in there.
Or you could have some pens that, like, in terms of serving a purpose, but would aesthetically serve some different needs too.
Sure.
Because then you get into like different materials that you like, or, kind of like you said, having like fun pens. There's some different designs, different colors, things like that you might find really interesting. So I could see expanding a little bit beyond that if you wanted to, just kind of for your own aesthetic needs. But yeah, I feel like 10 would pretty much cover a lot of bases.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you could probably even mix and match some of these. Like, you could get a Japanese extra fine on your pocket pen
100%.
or your expendable pen.
So Brian recommends going with fewer than 10.
I recommend
combining them, going down to 5.
If you really wanted to, you could.
You could.
Do I want to have like a super thin, scratchy nib on my like fancy pen? Probably not, but you could, if you really had to. So yeah, but I am not the model for limiting your pen acquisition in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So that's why I left it up to Drew on this one. But yeah.
All right.
All right.
Final
Next one.
question. This is
This
from,
one's got a nice, clear, easy answer.
and a nice, clear, easy name too.
Yeah, there you go.
So this
Say Barad.
this person asks why a perfect fountain pen doesn't exist. Is it because the manufacturers don't want to make one?
Clearly. It's a conspiracy.
There we go.
They want to make subpar pens so that you always want more.
The fountain pen industry is trying to kill the fountain pen industry.
Exactly.
They
That's
hate
how
it.
it works.
Yeah, they're not passionate about it at all.
No,
they're just in it for all the money that they make.
It's Big Pen.
Big
Pen is
the
just
tons of money they make in the fountain pen industry.
That's right.
Pilot making money hand over fist. You know, the G2s just like they do the G2s for fun. They really make their money on the Explorers and the Metros.
Well, so it's interesting. I actually have a different take on this. I think that it does exist. I think that
you think the perfect fountain pen exists?
I think that every manufacturer makes what they think is the perfect pen. You've dealt with enough manufacturers and suppliers and stuff like that. They are all trying to make the best pens that they can make. They have a very different perspective because they know how difficult it is to make pens. So for them, they deal in a world of constraints, and they're trying to overcome as many of those constraints as possible to make the most perfect pen possible in their eyes. So I think that most fountain pen makers are making, now not everyone is they're not all going to think that like every pen they make is the perfect pen. But like most of the people we know who are really passionate, especially like those who are like been in it a long time, they're a very heavy hand in the design and manufacture. A lot of them will have like a favorite pen that they've designed at some point that they think was like the perfect pen that they ever made, that maybe they even had to stop making it at one point because the material wasn't available, or there was some environmental regulation that impacted its ability to be manufactured, or who knows. But I would say that it's kind of tongue in cheek, but yeah, I think a lot of manufacturers do try to make what they think is a perfect pen. But I don't think this is actually achievable because there is no one perfect pen. Like there's your real answer there. Because none of us can all agree on what makes a pen perfect. Even just between Drew and I, we have a lot of overlap in pens we like, but we have very different opinions on certain parts of the pens. Like if you had to pick one perfect pen, it would probably have like a Japanese extra fine on it, wouldn't it? And mine would not. You know what I mean? So it's like we would have different opinions about it.
I don't even know what I would consider to be close to the perfect pen.
What would your perfect pen be, Drew?
It doesn't yet exist, I don't think.
Have you ever come across what's come closest?
You've got like the writing experience of the E95 and like overall, like, capping it, posting it, traveling with it in use. I love it. I hate the converter, and I hate the fact that I can't fully disassemble the nib. So like, yeah, so it's close, but like I love that pen so much, and it's still the 2000. Like I don't like I think the disassembly is a huge drawback to that pen.
The lack of disassembly.
The lack of disassembly, yeah. And then the vanishing point, the same way. It's got too many parts that I can't take apart. And then you get the more simple ones, and they just lack that personality. They lack that excitement. So it's a give and take. So
one could say that perfection is unachievable.
You could, and it's almost like the more you know, the less perfect something can be, because your tastes get more and more specific as you go further down the rabbit hole.
That is interesting, right? Like what can feel like the perfect thing, just like you have a Grail pen, and then when you get it, you're like, you start like side-eyeing some other pen. You're like, that one is a new Grail pen.
And you can be that way with any fandom or any hobby. The deeper you go, the more critical you become. So it's very healthy to step out of that from time to time so that you can appreciate more things. And I try to do that. And it's helpful to talk to customers so often, because so many people have given me insight that they have that then I can adopt, and it helps me keep a very healthy perspective and I keep a critical eye for the customer, for the consumer. I try to keep a less critical eye for me, and I love everything, but then love some things more. And then you can say the same thing about Star Wars, for example. Like so many people just love to hate on certain movies.
Oh, that's like such a classic example of like the biggest Star Wars critics are like the hardcore Star Wars fans.
Exactly.
Right?
So I could very well fall into that, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pull back and just look at these things like I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had 3 Star Wars movies. I would have done anything to have the amount of Star Wars content that we have today. And that's what I do. I put myself in that mindset, and I look at all of it, and I'm like, this is the greatest point of mankind. So, and if you do that, you can appreciate things so much more. So in a way, they're all perfect because they're all fountain pens and they're still around and they're still being made. Like
yeah,
fountain pens very well could have died by now.
They shouldn't still exist. Like being honest with ourselves.
Like if you really wanted to step back, we should all just be celebrating that it's still a thing.
They are what I would think you could classify as functionally obsolete.
Yeah.
They have been replaced many times over with other more efficient tools.
Vinyl records are still being made, so hooray for that.
But,
these are all joyous things.
People still, restore antique typewriters. And there's people that are into all kinds of, there's people that collect cars from the early 1900s. Like, why does that exist? Why do you have old cars? They're not necessary. You just love them and you love things about them. So obviously we're sold on fountain pens. I'm not trying to say that they don't matter, but I don't know that like perfection should be the goal. It's just, and it's so subjective and it's so personal. Like what would you say is like the perfect food? I don't know. Like it's a matter of
the waffle
taste. A waffle's pretty good. Pretty good one. I don't know. I think the pancake might be more perfect.
No, Brian. No, it is the waffle.
I'm a little more team pancake.
You could have the perfect pen, and you could put just the crappy, chunky, weird ink in there, and then this pen sucks. So there's so many variables.
So many factors. Or like, what's the perfect vehicle? What's the perfect pet? The perfect pair of
Pembroke
shoes.
Welsh Corgi.
Okay, says the guy with 3 of them. The perfect pair of shoes, the perfect chair, like
Converse All-Star.
Literally. See, Drew's got opinions. We should just listen to Drew. He clearly has the best taste for all of us. But what's perfect for one person isn't perfect for another. So it's impossible to make the perfect pen, for any manufacturer. But, we all have perfect preferences as well as aesthetics and style, which will change over time. I think that's a really interesting point you brought up, Drew. What you think is perfect and is perfect for you might be different 3 or 5 years from now because you're going to change. So I wouldn't worry so much about what's perfect. I think the perfect thing is the pen that you enjoy using the most, whatever makes you the most happy. That is the perfect pen.
I think we need to say that the pen companies are not purposefully not making the perfect pen. Like they're doing their best.
They're bound by constraints.
Yeah, they're doing their best. If they're doing a lot of the companies really. There might be some companies out there that don't care about making the perfect pen. A lot of the companies that we deal with anyway, very much care.
Yeah.
Like I would say all of the companies that we distribute, absolutely care. So they're trying their best. So, support them, support the ones you think are getting closest.
Yeah. Lamy 2000 is pretty close though. If I gotta admit. They made a Demonstrator 2000. There you go. A blue tinted Demonstrator 2000. That would be perfect. That has a removable piston.
I will say that you don't have to remove it. Like I've had mine for 10 years now, and I haven't.
I've never removed any of them.
I've never been sad that I couldn't do it. But no. I mean, I am sad that I can't do it just because I
want to. I want to see how it works in there.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen it. You've done it, and you snapped off a good few threads doing it.
I did do it once.
Yeah, we did it a couple times.
Yeah, it was kind of grinded.
That's how we realized it kind of destroys it when you do that.
Yeah, it's not good for the pen.
Yeah, if you unscrew the knob, you'll actually knock thread notches, whatever, off of the piston rod.
You're like stripping the threads.
Yeah, you
can disassemble it like 2 or 3 times, and then it will not work anymore.
Every time you knock off a couple more threads off the top, and
it's not good.
Eventually,
it's not good for the pen.
No, they're very flimsy.
Yeah.
Anyway, not supposed to do that.
They're very fragile. They're very whatever.
All right.
Once it's flimsy, has got a bad connotation to it. They're very effective when they're installed in the pen and not taken apart.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. So we got to have a pretty quick pen spotlight.
Yeah, we can do that real quick.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. We're rolling, Brian. What do you got there?
Got all your ball fragments.
I know. That styrofoam
fragments.
is not...
It's not the best. Okay, so here we have the Pilot Custom 845.
There we do.
So it is, I would consider it a large pen.
Yeah.
It's not a massive pen, but it's pretty large. It's got your flat tops, Drew. I know you're into that.
I am.
I do like the little ring here too. It's a nice little,
classy,
nice little accent. So yeah, it looks like a black pen. You're like, what's the big deal? Well, it's Urushi because it says it right there. Urushi.
Oh my gosh.
So it is essentially more or less like a, this is a Pilot Custom 823. So you can see generally it's about that same size. The nib is the same size as what's on the 823 or the Custom 743, if you're familiar with that one too. Custom 912 is a little bit smaller than this. It's got a slightly smaller nib too. So
I will say that the thing that prompted this discussion was that we got a message from Stig585 saying, why would someone buy the Custom 845? So we're like, you know what? We're not going to tell you to buy it, but
Sure.
we can help give you some context.
I mean, it's for all the things that we could fanboy about Pilot. They make great pens, great nibs. This one is Urushi, so it is going to be a very durable material. It doesn't look all that different than a black pen to the naked eye, but over time it's going to hold up really well. And if you just appreciate Urushi, it's got a slightly different feel to it. If you were just handed this pen and didn't know anything about it, I doubt you'd even say like, "Oh, this feels so different than a
Probably not
regular plastic pen." But you know.
Yeah, I don't
think
think
a lot of handwork to do.
I don't think
lacquer.
that there's a ton of layers on it.
Probably not.
It's definitely there.
Need it, yeah, but it's there, so it's going to be a more durable finish. And then the pen itself is nice and long. I like that about it. The weight and the balance is really good. The nib is beautiful.
That nib is
It's
stunning.
got a nice two-tone nib. That's a little fancier nib than what you get on your custom 823. 823 is fine. A little blue because it's inked up. It still looks good,
a little bit bigger.
but the two-tone really makes it pop. Actually, the design is pretty similar, and it's just two-tone. That's all. Okay, cool. So there you go. And then it's got it's Con 70 compatible, just like the 743. And I don't really know what else to say about it. That's
How
kind of
much
it.
is this one?
This one's 900. So it's
Okay.
quite a jump.
And then the Custom Urushi is 1500, right?
The Custom Urushi is 1500.
So that's a pretty big jump.
Well, let's show that. So Drew recommended showing that next to it because the Custom Urushi, you don't get a good sense of it unless you compare it to something else.
Yeah.
So there's the Custom Urushi compared to the 845.
So you've got 1500 up top, 900 down bottom.
Yeah.
So you've got both are Urushi pens.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess that price difference kind of makes sense when you see them right next to each other. Man, that is much bigger.
It's bigger, and the nib is bigger on this one.
It is.
So nib design is similar, but this is a number 30 nib versus a number 15. Now, this is all Pilot's numbering convention, so they have their own kind of system. But the Custom Urushi, this is the same size as what was on the Aya that we showed last week. Second biggest nib that Pilot makes, second only to the
And it's
Emperor.
actually more expensive than the Aya, isn't it?
No, the Aya is more. The Aya was like more.
Was it over 2?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Or for some reason I was thinking 12.
This is more expensive than the Yukari Royale Vermilion. That's 1200.
That's 12. Oh, okay.
That's where you're thinking.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So, you got options. So is it for everybody? No. But if you like a slightly larger pen, you like the nib, you like the design, you want something Urushi, but you don't want something like kind of Maki-e, like over the top design wise, you want a more conventional looking pen, this fits that need. So, you can definitely appreciate like the work that goes into it. The handwork, because it's still hand lacquered and all that stuff. It's just, basically like two different sizes of pen that you're getting with these two. And yeah, the nib performance is amazing. But
That's a huge cap.
it's a massive cap. I love the Custom Urushi. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I think that I don't know. See, this is making me like the 845 more
yeah,
because
this is going to be too big for most people, and it's
just
heavier too.
It's just
This one is
kind
a
of-
very good size.
yeah, that really is. I feel like the
Yeah.
845 is kind of like, I know that the Custom Urushi is probably the pinnacle, like the literal pinnacle of the Pilot lines, the custom lines, but the 845 I think is a more natural pinnacle. Not
Yeah, this thing is going to be bodacious in most people's hands.
bodacious is the word.
This
yeah.
this pen actually like looks kind of normal in my hands because I have very large hands. The 845 obviously still looks just fine, but most pens feel small in my hands. This one does not.
Yeah.
And the Custom Urushi like fits perfectly.
845 I think is one of those pens that's balanced well. I think that in larger hands
It
or
is,
smaller hands, it's still going to feel comfortable.
I agree. I think it's one that's like it's on the larger side, but it will balance out both. There's you go. There's your
Yeah.
Con 70. Takes all the cartridges. You can take a Con 40, Con 20, whatever converters you have. Takes them all. So there you go. So that's custom made 45. It's cool. It's Urushi.
Fantastic. All right.
All right, so I'll just hang on to this for the rest of my life, and we're good to go. Just
Talk to the
kidding.
boss lady about that one.
I would want the vermilion one.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I'm not that big into red pens, just the vermilion is just...
Oh, yeah.
It's so cool. It's Urushi.
And it's that special kind of red, too.
It is. It's a nice red. It's a nice red. So anyway, I should probably get my laptop out so I know what the heck is going on.
Oh, what's happening is
Oh,
next.
we're just talking nonsense?
That's right.
Cool. Well, let's talk about what's happening.
Super important stuff. All right. Well, I had a surprisingly eventful week given how miserable the weather was.
Oh, it was pretty bad here.
Oh, it was terrible.
We had the remnants of the
Ophelia
coming through. And
so nothing chaotic. I didn't encounter any accidents or big breakages or power outages really, but it definitely...
We just got a lot of rain.
A ton of rain, like all weekend.
I think we got 5 inches of rain on Saturday.
It could have been a weekend that I stayed in and did nothing, but we actually did a fair amount of things. You know, there was a lot of errand running. Friday night, we did go over my grandmother's, whom I call Mimi. I don't know who everybody else, what you call your grandmothers, but mine's Mimi. I love her to death. She's like the best human in the world. So we went over Mimi's house, and she, had a little spaghetti dinner for Shannon for a late birthday thing.
Nice.
So we got to do that, and that was just delightful. I love seeing my family, and I have a great relationship with my family. My mom and my aunts. They're all great, and there's no family drama. I'm really, really grateful for that. And
That's cool.
We basically go over Mimi's house every time someone has a birthday.
Oh, nice.
So we get over there about once a month usually.
That's
cool.
cool.
Hers will be the next one. So thankful for that.
All right.
And something happened when I was there. I don't recall what was the catalyst for it, but someone said something, and I immediately realized that I had a hotel room booked the following evening that I forgot to cancel because of the tropical storm. I had a hotel booked in Nags Head.
Oh my gosh.
For Saturday night. And I had paid extra so that I could cancel it with 2 days notice.
But it wasn't 2 days notice. No. Oh no.
It was like $333 for the night.
Did you lose it?
I went to Expedia, tried to cancel it. Like, nope, sorry, you are now past the limit. And here it is, Shannon's birthday event.
Gosh.
And I just my stomach just wrapped itself into knots. My mom saw me. She's like, what's wrong? She thought someone died. I'm like, I can't cancel a hotel room that I have tomorrow. And I'm like, can I not tell Shannon? What can I do? And of course she picks up. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I didn't cancel the Nags Head room. And she looked at me and she's like, you could see the emotions like, Drew, like, you forgetful.
You could see the whole conversation unfolding.
But she wasn't. She was like, okay, is there anything you can do? I'm like, yeah, I can call. So I got on the live chat with Expedia. They were so nice.
Yeah.
I talked to a real person. They called the hotel in Nags Head. I told her, I'm like, I don't feel safe with driving my family during a tropical storm,
sure.
and of course they might evacuate. They evacuate stuff all the time down there. She was able to come back to me and say, yep, when I went ahead and got it canceled.
Oh,
I was like,
that's awesome.
I didn't eat. Everybody was eating spaghetti. I'm just sitting here panicking, because with me, I don't know if you're this way, but I'm very cool under pressure when something's not my fault. Like if a tree hit the house, I would be cool. I'd be like, all right, you know what? This sucks. We'll have to talk to insurance. All the carpet upstairs ruined. Everybody's safe. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's go and, we'll camp out downstairs as long as the temperature's okay. I would be fine with that because that wasn't my fault. It's like something happened. When something happens, I can roll with it.
Yeah, you're just okay. It's an element of chaos that's happened.
There's no point in worrying about it. There's nothing I could have done. But this does get me stressed, Brian, because
I tend to be hardest on myself with things like that.
Because it's my fault.
Yeah.
I could have done something about it. When I have an element of control, I do panic.
Especially when it's something you've forgotten.
Yes.
Like that's, you and I both share that.
Oh man.
Yeah,
so everybody was eating. I was panicking. It all ended up being okay. But man, for a minute there, I just felt like crap. Like this is, sorry, honey. Like we're just flush $300
Yeah,
down the toilet.
You're just poor.
And of course now I'm still just struggling to get $500 to buy my PS5, and I still can't do it. And this would have just like,
oh, man.
Oh my God. So anyway, that was Friday. Next day was good. Woke up, made the family some waffles, which is always my process. I wake up first, go up, Shannon's still asleep, Archer's playing his tablet in his room, and I'm just like, hey, y'all want some waffles? So
There you go.
I went downstairs, made some waffles, and then we just kind of laid around for a little while. But we did want to go out and get some things. We were going over some friends for dinner, and we wanted to pick up some dessert for that event, so we did. We went to pick up we ended up getting a chocolate pie from Fresh Market, but we went ahead and picked up some dog food. Shannon wanted to run by TJ Maxx and just look around, just get out of the house. And, I didn't want to go. Archer didn't want to go because we like staying home.
Okay.
But she did say, well, Drew, we could go to Yenching for lunch. And I said, oh, okay.
She knew how to get you out of the house.
And I don't know. I've talked about it before on the Pencast. This is the Chinese restaurant that
hasn't changed since the 90s.
Has the same decor from like the late 80s, early 90s. And
you got to support them, Drew, so they stay in business.
Absolutely.
But don't support them too much to where they have enough to renovate the restaurant. So it's like a fine balance.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I just loved it so much. It makes me so happy being in there. It's just joyous. So that was a pretty solid day. And of course, we went over a friend's house that evening, and I brought the Quest so that they could play some VR games for the first time. And them and the kids had a blast. Seeing everybody use one of those for the first time is always funny because they get to laugh at each other and make funny noises. So, but man, was it rainy. It was still so rainy. Rainy. Yeah. Just miserable.
I have like mushrooms growing in my yard now.
Same. Same. Mushrooms everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's gross.
Yeah.
And then I will say Sunday morning, we kind of got a late start, but we went out to breakfast because any chance I can do that, I will. We went to First Watch in Short Pump.
I think I've been there.
It's there used to be an Italian place there called Bertucci's, and they shut down. It's right across from the mall.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about.
But it was crowded. It's always packed. Very good breakfast food though. They do like a
Is it like a breakfast place?
It's like a breakfast brunch place. I don't think they're open for dinner.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's very cool. And I was thinking how great it would be. I might be wrong, but it seems like a really great place for serving because you have limited hours. Breakfast food and brunch food is much faster to prepare. So you're going to have quick turnaround on your tables, meaning more tips, more frequent tips. The menu wasn't like cheap. It wasn't like super bougie expensive, but it was like moderately priced. So I'd say like if I was going to be a server anywhere, that would be a pretty solid.
You would get to work more like normal working hours.
Yeah.
Because like normal restaurants, you're getting out at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
And it's busy. There's like a good rotation of customers. So anyway, that was pleasant. I got a carrot cake and like almond pancake and then a side of biscuits and gravy. And the gravy was hot. And I love that. And it was not gelatinous. I have a very strong opinion of that gelatinous gravy that like solidifies over like, oh God, like Cracker Barrel gravy. No, that's nasty gravy. This was good gravy.
Yeah.
It's
like the white cream gravy you're talking about?
Yeah, but it wasn't super creamy.
Yeah?
It was just the right consistency.
Okay.
But like piping hot. Like they didn't just like ladle this out of a vat that they had chilling back there. Yeah. It was a very good breakfast. Good coffee too. They left the carafe, which I always appreciate. When you don't have to ask for coffee, you can just refill it. And they even came back to like, this carafe has enough for about one more cup. Do you want me to refill the carafe and bring it back to you? I'm like, no, one more cup should do it. That would be third cup, and I'm like, that's fine. So just great service, great experience.
Awesome.
Like, man, I love a good breakfast experience.
I'm big at restaurants. I'm big at when they're attentive to the drinks.
It makes such a huge difference.
Rachel will take like 3 sips of her drink, and I don't understand.
Well, I
will drink like 3 glasses.
It's such
whatever.
an easy way to like screw up a dinner. Yeah. Like if you're a server, it's just pay attention to the drinks because you could have the best dinner in the world, but if you're thirsty and you haven't refilled, like you're going to remember that. It kind of ruins everything.
I feel like I'm a prisoner,
right?
When I'm thirsty,
yes,
and I'm just like drinking like the runoff from my ice cubes that have melted, and I'm like, that's something.
That's like the worst thing you can do as a server is make your customers feel like they're trapped, like not bringing them the check on time.
Yeah,
like that's the whole point. Like they're supposed to be served and helped, and when you lock them down like that, it just completely it flips the script.
Especially if you got kids, it's like kids are getting antsy, and you're like, I'm gonna get the heck out of here.
I wish that I wish that I could have had the insight when I was a server that I have now being a father. Yeah, like man, I would have been so much more patient. I would have offered a different set of things. I don't know. It would have provided me some good insight.
You got more life experience now.
Oh yeah, no, that was super annoying.
I was never a server. I don't think I would have a prayer being a server. I was a busboy.
Oh, I was bad at it. I was definitely bad. I cared and I tried my hardest, but I was bad. I was so forgetful, Brian.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, you and I can't multitask.
No, not at all.
Like I would be on my way to do something, and then someone would stop me and get can I have a drink? Oh, sure. Okay, so now 100% of my brain is like that drink. What I was doing before doesn't matter.
So if you sat close to the kitchen, you're going to get great service. Because if you're the last person to talk to you before you go into the kitchen, you're going to get what you want.
I was terrible. I did well because I think for whatever reason I was likable, but I was not good. So I skirted by just by being kind, and
you got some pity tips probably.
Absolutely.
They're like, he's trying so hard.
So many tips of mine were written with their child's crayon because I did not give them a pen.
Oh gosh.
Terrible. I was bad. I was very bad. I wouldn't have liked me.
Oh man.
Another rainy day, wanted to ask Archer if he wanted to watch a movie, and he's like, yeah. I said, how about, because we were talking about both of these movies recently, Pirates of the Caribbean and Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And I asked him, what would you like to watch? And he said, Lord of the Rings. And I said, okay, well, are you sure? Because we did try to watch that last year, and you didn't really make it through much of it. Like, no, I really want to. I was like, okay. So I popped it in. I only have the extended edition, so it's like 3 hours.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
He did not make it through like 20 minutes.
Oh gosh.
He was just rolling around all bored, like fell off the seat, just laying on the ground. I'm like, do you want to be done? Yeah. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Fair enough.
It's not. He needs.
He's pretty young. Yeah.
He needs to figure out what story. Yeah. How the story appeal. But
one can live a successful life without having seen Lord of the Rings.
That
I
they
can
can.
attest to that.
That they can. But man, I could watch those movies with my eyes closed and just listen to them because like the music and the sound design is just so delightful to listen to. So anyway, one awful thing about Archer that I recently discovered, both a couple weeks ago and today, homie likes plain Captain Crunch.
Okay.
No Crunch Berries.
Okay.
Just plain old Captain Crunch.
I mean,
just ripping off the
it's
roof
still
of your
on
mouth.
Shelves. It sells.
Yeah.
Somebody's eating it.
It's him.
Ripping off the roof of your mouth.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Captain Crunch is brutal.
I didn't really have a lot of Captain Crunch as a kid.
Neither did I.
What does it taste like? I'm trying to remember.
It's its own thing. It doesn't really have an analog.
Okay.
So
I had a lot of Kicks. I had a lot of Kicks as a kid.
Oh, Kicks is great. Yeah,
Kicks
I love Kicks. I had a lot of Kicks too. My mom insisted on giving us the cereal she thought was healthy. Now you actually look at the nutrition facts, and there's not really a difference.
That's how they marketed it.
They're all they're all crap. So I don't really care. Whatever.
Yeah. So we might as well eat the stuff that tastes amazing.
Pretty much, yeah. He's a kid. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
We've got some Count Chocula in there now too.
I like an example of my frugalness here. We've talked about like.
Oh yeah, you're a bag man.
Shannon's bougie with the name brand cereals and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I am with certain cereals, but if I can't tell the difference, there's such a big price difference.
Oh yeah.
Of cereals.
Yeah. Like I like Raisin Bran. I know I'm an old man, but I like Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
Whatever I can get at Aldi is totally fine.
Yeah, raisin flakes.
Yeah, they can actually call it Raisin Bran, I think. It's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
That's it for me. Not a whole lot going on.
Okay.
But life has been delightful. I've been happy.
Good for you.
Day in, day out. It's been good stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have as much to talk about today. Famous last words. We'll go 20 more minutes. Had some good family time. Hung out with my parents. Hadn't seen them for a couple of weeks.
Oh, nice.
So just got to chill with them. Had brunch with them on Sunday. Made some French toast. Hadn't made that in a while.
Nice.
So normally we do pancakes. That's like our standby.
What's your griddle situation, Brian Goulet?
I've got a griddle situation.
You got an electric griddle?
I got an electric griddle.
Yeah.
That's
what brand you rocking?
Let's go to. Oh, I don't know. Some $20 thing.
That's what
from
I have.
Whatever
Okay.
department store or
Same.
Target.
Same. Okay. I bought a electric griddle from Kroger.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
the middle section where they have.
You're just like, oh yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I could probably use that.
I don't. I think it might.
Is it not good?
No, it finally.
Oh, it kicked.
Well, it didn't really
kick in?
kick. So it did this thing where, and I love me some pancakes. We use it
heck yeah.
pretty regularly.
Yeah.
But it would do this thing where it would get really hot at the beginning. I'd make all the pancakes, and then the temperature would just drop.
Huh.
And
It
then
wouldn't keep up?
no, and then I'd be like, all right, well, these need to sit here and cook for 1,000 years now. So
Weird.
yeah, it was dumb. So anyway,
Yeah, that's
the
not- that's not right.
sticker on the dial disappeared.
Oh gosh.
So now I'm like, I have no idea where to even put this thing. So I was thinking, like, maybe I could like make a notch or
notches.
something.
Yeah, that's right.
But I was like, nah, this thing's done anyway. I paid $20 for it. It's lasted more than 10 years. So
I mean, $2 a year for an electric griddle.
yeah.
It's pretty good.
So
It's
I
lived
need
a good life.
So I need to get a new one.
Yeah.
And I use it enough that I'd like to upgrade. So I need to look into that a
Do
little
they
bit.
make? I would assume they make fancier electric griddles.
It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to maintain a freaking temperature.
I'm pretty sure any new griddle will do that.
I'm hoping.
Did
I'm
it do that in the beginning?
I don't know. I feel like in the beginning I'd make my stuff quick anyway because it was just Shannon and I. But now that I've got a third human in the house, I'm making several surfaces
Several
worth
batches?
of food. Yeah.
but it should stay hot though.
It should. Yeah.
Especially if you're mixing up batter, it's like more or less room temperature.
Yeah.
It's not like you're cooking cold stuff. It's like
Yeah.
really
No.
bringing the temperature down. Yeah.
But I respect my pancakes and,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
I need them to be better.
I'm
But
pretty sure you could just get a $20 griddle thing and it would be fine. It'd last you another 10 years.
perhaps. Maybe I'll do that again.
Well, they're probably more than that now because of inflation
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah,
Okay,
we
what-
just got a regular.
What kind of pancakes you make?
We'll mix it up. We like putting stuff in the pancakes.
In the stuff or on the stuff?
So it depends.
Oh.
Depends on what the stuff is.
Oh. Would you
But-
do berries?
If we do berries, then we'll do it on the pancakes.
On. Okay.
Like
All right. What
like
goes
blueberries.
in? Chocolate chips?
Chocolate chips
Chocolate-
or sprinkles.
You put sprinkles in.
Well, you can do sprinkles on, but if you do, then when you flip them, they like
They burn.
and they become like this solid like layer
Yeah.
of thing, and which is fine. It's just a different thing.
Yeah.
But if you do it in the pancake batter,
And we're talking about the waxy,
oh yeah,
not the
no,
nonpareils.
none of this crunchy
Yeah,
nonsense. No,
amen
you
to
can't
that.
have that with pancakes.
Nope.
No, then it's like you're eating sand in your
Ugh.
pancakes.
Terrible.
No. We know how to do it. She's not a snob when it comes to sprinkles. She likes sprinkles, but she's waxy. All the
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Way to go.
But yeah, we did French toast, which we don't often do, but it's not that much different than doing pancakes.
No.
It's just a couple extra steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. It was really good.
Did you buy special bread or did you just use what you had?
We just use a part of the reason we did it is because we were just going to do regular pancakes, but I did the thing where it was like, oh, we need a few things at the store. And it was like midweek.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, we'll just I'll stop on the way home and get some groceries. I think Rachel stopped this time. But we hadn't gone home and done an inventory. So it was kind of like, did we need bread? I can't remember.
Oh, you got
So it's like, I'm
surplus.
pretty sure we need some bread. But then we get home and oh my gosh, we already had 2 loaves
what
of
are we
bread.
going to do?
This happens to me all the time because I don't remember. My short-term memory is not the best. So I will frequently overbuy things, consumables.
Yeah.
And hammers, apparently. but because I'm always like, did I get that? I can't remember.
Do I have a hammer?
I'll go ahead and get out hammers, but tape measures and scissors and Sharpies and chapstick, these things.
You can never have enough chapstick.
Yeah, I'm I probably have 10 tubes of chapstick and random jacket pockets and who knows where.
I have one in every jacket.
Yeah, because it's it's cheap and I can't remember if I had it. I think I might need it, so I'll just go ahead and get it and then I have it and whatever. But food things that expire, like food, you sometimes it's like, oh crap, okay.
French toast is a good way to deal with surplus bread.
Yeah. So that's
Also-
what we did.
also
We killed a whole loaf.
When was the last time you made a triple decker peanut butter and jelly?
Oh, maybe a month or 2 ago.
Yeah,
It's not been that long.
Now
yeah.
we're talking.
Oh yeah, I'll do a triple decker.
You introduced me to the triple
The
decker.
Mercedes cut.
Yeah.
Remember
Oh
that
yeah.
one?
Well, I don't do
I'll
that,
do
but
the 3 triangle.
I'm not. I still do that from time to time.
When you want 2 sandwiches, but you don't want that much bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm
I do that. I've done
big
that with
fan.
grilled cheese too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Triple decker sandwich. It's like a club sandwich. I mean, that's really what it is, right?
Fantastic.
Big fan. Anyway, so French toast, that was fun. And then, it's getting to that season, Drew. Fall is here, and all the pumpkin things are starting to happen. So Rachel,
Shannon found some pumpkin things at TJ Maxx this weekend.
Yeah. We got some pumpkin things. I'm just talking purely like consumables, food.
Not
decorations.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure the fall birds are coming out soon.
The Target birds.
Yep. But yeah, pumpkin things. So Rachel's got some like pumpkin cold brew coffee stuff that she got. And, we wanted to get some bagels. Joseph picked out pumpkin spice bagels.
Oh, boy.
So all this stuff. And I'm like, this is how it happens.
This is how it happens.
We start like, oh yeah, pumpkin. Yeah, I'll get this pumpkin, that pumpkin, that pumpkin. And then
you're going to get so sick
give
of
it a few weeks. And it was like, I'm freaking sick of everything pumpkin.
Yeah.
So a number of years ago, like probably 4 or 5 years ago, I went so hard on the pumpkin flavor stuff that I burned myself out, and I took like a couple of years off.
Same.
Well, I just couldn't deal with anything pumpkin.
Yeah.
But this year, I'm finally like, pumpkin.
I'm there too.
Yeah.
Two pumpkin things I've never gotten sick of. Starbucks pumpkin bread.
Don't think I've had that.
All into that. It's just the loaf. You get your banana loaf or your pumpkin loaf. Both are great.
Okay.
And freaking pumpkin candles, man. I will always huff a pumpkin candle. They are just it's the best.
Okay.
I don't even care if it's the dead of summer. Get me a pumpkin candle or a pine candle. Both I will never get tired of a pumpkin candle or a pine candle.
Yeah.
Love them. Like when those things go on sale, God, load me up a year supply of pine and pumpkin.
See, Rachel and I have so many candles. We don't burn regular candles very much.
Oh, we do.
Anymore.
We always go through candles.
Really?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, we do.
But candles, like if we're like having a week where we need to tighten our belts a little bit, candles candles are the first. When we had Archer, candles were the first thing to go. Like when we had new expenses, we're like, okay, can't buy candles anymore.
Wow.
Because there's a lot, some of Yankee candles like $20.
They do get expensive, but they're big. Like they can last a while.
Yeah, but
I guess we went through a phase there where we were like getting them as gifts and stuff like that and all that. So we just had this like stockpile of half-burned candles.
My aunt gave Shannon a candle gift on Friday when we were at Mimi's house. Heck yeah. So we're like, light her up.
Yeah. All right.
Love a candle.
Yeah, we haven't been burning them as much, so maybe we need to get on that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what
Candles
I like?
fix everything.
This is not related to anything, but I like the candle that has like a, I forget what it's called, but it's got a wick. Woodwick. Yeah, like crackles.
Well, they make other ones that aren't that brand, but I think that brand was like the first one to do it.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that's the brand I have, but I'm into that.
Yeah.
I like the crackling sound.
They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun. The cheapo ones don't always stay lit as long as they...
Oh.
Because if it's not the right sort of wood, they like can crumble too low.
Sure.
And then drown themselves out. But
right.
Yeah, the good ones are nice.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, pumpkin things. God, most of the stuff I've been doing has been so boring. Like I was trying to think of like, what can I share? And it's just like, I met with my insurance agent. I, was working on our home budget. We went over our like kids, like job, like chore chart and reworked some stuff. It's just so boring. I'm just bored talking about it, even thinking about it.
You watch any TV shows, movies?
Not really.
No.
Didn't really do anything that fun. Did we? I don't remember. No, everybody's kind of doing their own thing a lot this weekend. We hung out as a family, and then everybody was just kind of whatever. I was like straightening up random parts of the house. It's just nothing exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did some
paperwork and
we did some cleaning. I had to vacuum everything.
Yeah.
Even upstairs. And Shannon's been letting the dogs go upstairs recently, which we said we weren't going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been very well behaved as far as bladder control goes. So
That's good.
she's allowing it, which is great because she works from home. She's an extrovert.
Yeah.
So like she needs needs company. So she very much values having the dogs up there. So that's fine. But it does mean I will need to vacuum up there more often. Yeah. My current vacuum is pretty new. It does a thing where you can take the it's a canister vacuum.
Okay.
So I can take the handle off and take the head off.
Okay.
And kind of remove the whole middle part and just take the handle and plug it into the head. So I've got this like little mini vacuum, which is great for the stairs.
Okay.
So I'm actually and floor mats too, because floor mats are all just to get sucked up.
Yeah.
But I like to get down on the floor and put one hand on the mat and just the other one, with the handheld, and it really the little the attachment situation on this vacuum is actually pretty solid.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's not so bad,
Yeah.
but still.
Yeah, and then Ellie had her first school dance
Oh.
last week. So did Joseph, but he didn't go. He had zero interest whatsoever.
That's going to be Archer.
Yeah. It wasn't like, it was weird. I don't remember them doing dances like this, but it was after school. So it was just like, they just stayed late to school, and it's like they had this, like, Ellie's in 6th grade. They had 6th grade dance, and I guess 7th and 8th grade. Or maybe 7th and 8th were together.
I don't remember any middle school dances.
I don't either. I think we had them. I don't remember going. The first dance I ever went to was like homecoming, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
Or something like that.
Mine was homecoming 10th grade.
Yeah, I think mine too. So anyway, it was.
Do you know where we went to dinner before homecoming 10th grade?
Oh gosh.
Yenching.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I tell you, it's been a part of my life for so long.
I guess so. Look at that. Yeah, so she did the dance and it was fun. She had a good time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you have to just go pick her up because she stayed there?
Yeah, we just
Okay,
picked her up
cool.
afterwards. Yeah.
So she didn't have to wear anything fancy. She just wore school clothes.
She like dressed up a little nicer than she normally
Right.
would for school, but she didn't bring like a separate outfit or anything.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, she's getting older, man. But yeah, she said it was great. She said they got to like request songs and stuff like
Oh,
that.
nice.
And she rickrolled the school.
Oh,
You know,
of course.
Rick Astley, never going to give you up.
Oh, man.
Which apparently to my kids' generation, just anytime you play or reference that song, you're rickrolling. So it's not like the whole like elaborate, hey, click on this deception sort of aspect
Right.
of it is, it's very like, very surface level.
Lazy
with
is what
them.
it is.
It's,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how like strict do I need to get like that with my kids?
That's not a Rick
No,
roll.
it's not actually Rickrolling.
You're not
I'm like,
Rickrolling.
None of this even
I'll
matters.
show you how to Rick roll.
They're having a
Back
good-
in my day,
they're
Rick
having-
rolling had some respect.
That's right. It's not even our day. It started in like
No,
2010.
it's not.
So it's like whatever. But anyway, so she requested it and
Nice.
they played it and all the kids knew exactly what was going on.
Very nice.
But she requested other things, like they played her request as the last song of the dance. Was "Take on Me" by was it Aha? I think it
so.
is. Yeah. So I don't know. We're like playing something like these retro songs. It's not even really songs from our era because it was like
I don't know. Take on
more
me.
80s.
Yeah.
It was like when we were born maybe. But my kids have just latched onto it. The nostalgia thing is like they're perpetuating it just right along with us. So yeah, it was fun. So anyway, she did that. But that's about it.
Cool.
Everything else is boring in my life.
All right.
Just working.
Boring sometimes fine.
Yep. So that's it for whatever. What's happening?
Yeah.
Quick company update, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. Not a whole lot to talk about on the company front, Drew. We're just doing our thing, man.
We're doing
every
our
day.
thing.
But we do have a video. My favorite big pens. So
Ooh.
that's fun.
It is fun.
May or may not feature one of the pens that we showed today. In
It
the
also
favorite big pens.
It also may or may not feature a pen that has never been seen, that we don't even sell.
Yes, that's right. We are previewing a pen, sort of teasing it out there. But anyway, if you haven't seen that, go check it out. We have a fun little intro on it. Yeah. And then, we'll have more videos to come. We're planning a lot. So good things happening. All right, let's wrap it up. Well, we want to thank you all for watching. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Ask us questions so that we can answer them on this very show. Check out gouletpens.com for ink, pen, and paper needs. And like and subscribe us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever. All right, I got a fun fact for you, Drew.
Tell me.
Very much a nerdy fact.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so this is about Mohs hardness scale.
Moo.
So I was familiar with the Mohs hardness scale back from my science days.
Yeah.
But I was like, how is that actually measured? Like what, like the scale is like, okay, diamonds are like the hardest. You got like talc and stuff like that. That's like the softest. And then you got everything in between, but it's like, how do you determine like what's a 6 or what's a 6.5? So I was curious.
What does
So I
Mo
looked it
do?
up. Well, I didn't go into the history about Mo or the scale or whatever, but I was more curious about how do you determine what the number is on the scale?
Yeah.
So I'd never looked it up before, and so I did. So that's my fun fact today, is teaching you about how they do the Mohs hardness scale. So you're going
Okay.
to learn something.
This isn't the type of nerdy that excites me. I thought you were going to say something like...
This is like useful nerdy, maybe.
Man, all right.
All right, so, but it's got a fun name.
Okay.
It's a device called the sclerometer. It's an instrument used by metallurgists, material scientists, and mineralogists to measure the scratch hardness of materials. It was invented in 1896 by Thomas Turner, the first professor of metallurgy in Britain at the University of Birmingham. The Turner sclerometer test consists of measuring the amount of load required to make a scratch. In a test, a weighted diamond point is drawn once forward and once backward over the smooth surface of the material to be tested. The hardness number is the weight in grams required to produce a standard scratch. The scratch selected is one which is just visible to the naked eye as a dark line on a bright reflecting surface, and is also the scratch which can just be felt with the edge of a quill when the latter is drawn over the smooth surface at right angles to a series of such scratches produced by regularly increasing weights.
They still use a quill.
Apparently. I didn't look into the quillness aspect of it, but
Interesting.
you got to have some kind of standard. So I guess that's what it was originally created
How timeless.
to be. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting because it's a pretty subjective scale. It's
right,
like
the whole naked eye thing seems pretty subjective.
It's like, that can be subjective.
But a quill,
But
okay.
I don't know. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
I
The
wonder if
quill
there's like
part is fascinating. I would not have ever
I would think there's like
that.
other tools that you could use to measure that now, like more whatever, infrared or something. I don't know, but anyway, that's apparently what it is. Use a sclerometer.
A sclerometer
to
and
measure
a quill.
the hardness of things.
How about that?
Yeah, there's a whole there's a whole system for measuring the hardness of wood, which I won't get into today, but I can in the future if you're interested. It's called the Janka hardness scale, and it has actually probably a more specific and obscure method for measurement than even the sclerometer does. But we'll save that for another day.
That can be, a special feature for all of our, $20 a month Patreon subscribers. You can listen to Brian talk about wood hardness.
Janka hardness. Believe it or not, there are other podcasts out there that I listen to that are woodworking related that talk in detail about Janka hardness and modulus of elasticity and, these types of things that matter for wood movement and stuff like that, wood strength. It's a whole thing. There's nerd rabbit holes you can fall into all over the place.
That's too much useful nerd territory. I need useless nerd stuff.
It can be pretty useful. Yeah, you gotta be careful. You can actually learn some stuff and put it to use.
Oh, terrible. Why would I want to do that?
Why would you want to do that? There you go. Well, that's all we got for you all this week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Right on.